Evil eyebrows. Oh, he's so pissed off right now. So, there we go. So, yes, so we will be going over the Grand Finals today. No one's already picked that up. We'll be... I won't say I'm going to be skipping some parts, but some of the parts are boring, and I'm like, well, that's what fucking happens when that happens, and we'll just kind of pass over it. Okay. Can you even hear them now? Not that I'm complaining. I just like some noise in the background. And every now and then they do say something, and I'm like, hey, you know what? You guys aren't always right, but you know what? That time, you were.
Curiously, have a Junkrat here on defense, Route 66, man. Yeah, they're going to run Orisa as their main tank. No Sombra. Usually you see Sombra on defense. This time it'll be Savior.
Alright, so, bow! Alright, so Widow already got Widow, but we are seeing a non-dive defense for New York. So they got Widow. That's great for the long-range support. They have some mobility so they can deal with high-ground and low-ground threats. Like, you always need some of that. And all that's pretty standard. You kind of got the standard dive and a Widow in this one. And the big thing to take apart from this is that these are two different ways of protecting the Widow, and they do correspond to the offense and defense version of just conceptually. So, Fusion, they're on attack, and what they're looking to do is to push the defense back, which allows their Widow to take shots. While New York, they're on defense, so they're just going to try to stick right here and stay right on this damn spot and create space that way for their Widow. So attackers are looking to push forward, create space through that, which gives their Widow space, and the defense, who have space naturally, are they just need to sit there and hold that space, and that buys them the Widow space. So, and this is just a cool thing to note. Just like, hey, look, they're running Widow, and they're doing two different things, but they're doing it the same way. Or they're doing the same thing two different ways. There we go. That one was right.
The Sabiel is going to have the luxury of this big Orisa barrier to hide behind, and then if they try and dive this on the up top high ground, you have
so yeah, so this is just vying for position, seeing what people can get. No big deal right here. The big deal here is the Widow on both sides. Both teams are specifically looking for this Widow, where she's at and what she's doing.
Well, this is where you kind of miss having EQO in the lineup, right? Because then this is where you would go Genji Tracer and you would just
keep harassing from the low ground, but they really can't get much. And no one's giving up position right now. Those are some actually good shots just to slow them down.
This is a best of 5, not a 5-map series necessarily. So 3 maps would be the minimum.
So at this part, there's a really cool thing that they try to do. So the cool thing is that they are trying to Fusion. Do I even have white? Can I switch to white? Oh god. Alright, that just makes W just makes the whole screen white. That does not work. Alright, so red is attackers. Attackers are trying to go up this way and this other way. So they're trying to do a 2-pronged attack. Which you would like to think, hey, that worked. Is the audio decent for anyone else? Stop and start the stream again, I'm gonna say. Is the hold on, audio is weird? How weird? Does it sound far away? What's going on? Talk to me, chat. Those syncs were out. I think the video. Oh, ASMR. Oh yeah, sorry, I dropped this. I dropped it right next to me. So I don't know if this sounds any better. Does it sound any worse? It's fine. Thank you. Sunday Comics says my voice sounds normal to me. Please stop. Please stop the stream. Do I stop the stream or do I stop the ASMR? I'm not whispering into your ear, Dr. Cowbell, because I'm pretty sure you're a guy. But if there's any cute ladies out there trying to whisper as closely into your ear as possible. But yeah, look at this fucking trap. What a trap! Yeah. So the cool thing about this trap, guess what? Well, it traps someone. So while they did try to attack from both ways, the defense actually switched. And I don't know if they switched because they knew attacks were coming this way, but they did it at the exact right time. And it works out. So, because of all the damage they got with the Junkrat, they demech D.Va and they killed a Winston. But, and a lot of people talk about game sense, and they're like, well, Chro, how do you work on game sense? What is it? What do you even mean by it? How do you define it? The truth is game sense is always about what's happening next. That's all game sense is to me. Like, okay, they all attacked up here. That's cool, but why? Like, yeah, to deal damage to try to get a pick, but remember, their plan is to buy space for the Widow. That's what you need to look at. So you're like, all right, so actually what's happening right here with the Winston and the D.Va, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, it's threatening, but it's not the biggest threat. The biggest threat is actually this. That's the whole objective of this lineup. So, while they were putting pressure, this whole time, the Widow's doing Widow stuff. And that's what happens. Widow actually flanks all the way around. This was actually quite good, because all of their defense is right here, facing this way. And the Widow coming up this way, like towards this side, like they're going to be able to get shot. They're going to see it coming. So from this opposite side, no one saw shit coming. So Carpe gets one good shot, takes out the Widow, and then he gets a second shot, I'm pretty sure. No. Well, let me double check that. Let me just double check that. Okay, yeah, so actually the pick happened before all of this. So he got two picks. Both DPSers, actually. And now this is going to cause Mercy to do Mercy stuff. Rez comes out. But essentially, as soon as both DPSers died, and the Rez had to come out and all this happened, all this ground was lost. They're stuck on up here, but they're stuck in a really, really, really shitty spot. I mean, just a couple of tanks on the high ground. That's it. They're going to get this Widow, but the damage has been done. The defense has already been basically completely collapsed. Jonak, or not Jonak, the Zen actually pops the D.Va here. Which is good and all, but it doesn't matter. They're trying to get their respawns through the choke points. And we've discussed this. Why do you want to push up on defense? Well, I mean on offense. Well, the thing is most maps go big room, choke point, big room, choke point, big room. That's like how Overwatch works. And the thing is defense will set up here, but if you take out the defense and you set up here, all of a sudden the defenders are now stuck going through a choke point. Essentially, you flop the entire design of offense-defense on its head, because now the defenders have to attack the offense and survive that. Which is great, because hey, if you want to go through a choke point against us, that's perfect. That makes things really easy. So it was a good defense by New York, but the flanking Widow that no one expected did so much damage they couldn't recover from it. So it was very, very nice to see.
My genius is finally recognized.
And so you have, and basically at this point, usually when you get to this point, where the defense kind of gets set up, the whole goal to push ahead is just to make sure the defense doesn't have a very clean and easy way to set up how they want to exactly. And so with heroes like, actually these dive heroes in general, but like these three, D.Va, Winston, Tracer, essentially you want to move, like push up a little bit, poke, and then get out. And you just want to disrupt their defenses so they can't set up properly. And that makes the entire attack easier for your entire team. So, Junkrat does Junkrat things such as making Winston eat a tire, and then who puts a trap there? Yeah, and so getting those 2 kills just sounds the horns. Everyone push forward, get as much ult as you can, kill whoever you can, because they essentially won that point.
Because what happens there is they use a rip tire, they get fraggy there right away. Boombox is left alone on the payload, and Mondo and Sabilby jump right on him.
Yeah, nothing much to say about that. Sometimes Winston needs tires.
In Snillo, but you really got nothing out of that Transcendent. You think you'd call for the complete disengage and not use ultimates in
so this is a very odd part. In fact, let's go back 5 seconds. And we can stop right here. So we can see, because we're spectators, there's a Winston over here. So on the right flank, there's a Winston. Tracer, she's right here. On the left flank. D.Va is holding the middle of the cart. Now, this is... in most situations, I'd be like, I would say, no, this is kind of dumb. Even if for dive comp, when you're this separated, they're running dive as well. Or even if they're not running dive, they have a Junkrat. If any one of these parts gets found out and killed, there's nothing you can do to push. Like, essentially, you lose the push automatically. But the big deal is ultimate, ultimate, ultimate. And D.Va, Winston, as you guys know, their ultimates are essentially free guys, right? They essentially get a second chance at life. So what they're doing here is they're trying to bait out support ults. Mercy already ulted. They're looking for the Zen ult. They're looking to use resources up. They're trying to trade as efficiently as possible, so 1 or 2 ults, because just Tracer ult doesn't really matter. 1 or 2 ults to get all the ults out here, and then they're going to push with the overall ult advantage. So, as you see, like normally this would be a death kind of dive for a Winston. Junkrat, D.Va, Zen. But because of the free guy he has with his ultimate, he forces that out. And then, that's just Tracer being Tracer. So, that was just a good stick. Transcendent was baited out. Here's Jonak doing Jonak stuff. He kills people, and then both supports start holding hands. And Winston can't do enough damage to kill 2 supports holding each other's hands. There's just nothing that you can do about it. The healing outdoes the damage Winston does, because Winston does 40 damage per smack, and leap damage, what is it? It's 50? I think, actually, it's 49 plus 1. He does 1 on liftoff, and he does 49 damage on landing. And depending on how close you are to that landing, he does less and less damage. No, he actually does 49 damage. How do I know this? Because I've died to this 1 damage before. Legitimately, I've died to the 1 damage jump before. And I was very, very confused. I was like, he jumped away from me and he killed me. So, while this all looks cool, or it looks like it's fine. Let's just rewind. It looks like Fraggy is wasting everyone's time, right? It's like, you're not going to kill these guys. But you should know, they got out the ults, right? Perfect. That's what they wanted. They got out the ults. Secondly, both of their supports are taken care of right now, right? They're busy. They can't do anything. And so now it's, all right, so now you're doing dive v dive. And it's essentially these 4 heroes against these 4. The difference is these 4 have supports. Also, well, they do have support from a Zen. Remember that Zen does a significant chunk of damage. So it's one thing to say support, but it's another thing to be like, all right, it's a Mercy Zen combo. That damage stacks up really quick when going against tanks. And so that's what we actually see. We'll see the hit points over here just dwindle. They get 1 tank, they get a 2nd tank. There's just not enough support for them. And at this point, Fusion have the advantage. And guess who's left? Well, both tanks died. So now, what do you go after? The fucking supports that can't get away. So it was, and yeah, there's just Jonak doing Jonak stuff. But without any tanks, everyone falls. So it was really good for, I mean, that was essentially set up. This entire thing, this entire point, while everyone will talk about the DPSers and what they did, it was all Fraggy. He forced out the Jonak ult. Now, Snillo did kill the Junkrat with a Pulse Bomb, but keeping the supports busy, that allowed the other enemy, which allowed his team to kill the rest of the team. It was all Fraggy. He set that up. Even though it didn't look very pretty or impressive, it actually was quite important. And so I really like. So, Snillo, he's super far deep. In fact, he's so deep, he's trying to flank the flankers. Just normal protocol would be like, all right, we're going to send a couple people out this way, and then we're going to send the rest of the team out this way whenever defending this point. So what he's looking to do is when people push out of here, he's going to come out from way back, and he's going to flank the flankers.
Flanking is Snillo.
And here I may have to say, this is one of the nicest ways of, how can I put it? Let me just come to the camera. I would call it gating. And gating is from fighting. And it's just knowing fighting distances. It's like, all right, if someone's here and I'm here, they can't punch or kick me. They're of no threat. And like, all right, here they're in kicking range. All right, here they're in punching range. All right, here elbow and knees are a factor. And right here it's like grappling and you got shoulders and hips. So it's this spacing. And this part right here, we're going to see absolutely beautiful, perfect spacing. Meaning, a Widow is really effective in this distance. And you're going to see, I will say, like, this distance. And as, like, the team encroaches, like, the whole team just kind of backs up like this. It's like, oh, everyone dove. Wow! And, like, they still are this far away. And it's really hard to see that, and it's really hard to do. So this spacing was really good. Essentially, Widow was close enough for them to get dove on, and as they dove, she just backed up that much amount more, and they couldn't get shit. So, look. So we see how Snillo is putting pressure here. And the Widow went out this way. So as we'll have to go back to actually see where everyone was spaced out at. So we can see the Widow over here, and everyone's keeping their space. The Winston dove over here, and the members over there just backed up. Snillo is keeping pressure on him just to keep him honest. But you see, as wherever Winston goes, wherever this Tracer goes, they are just holding space for Carpe to do his thing. So there it is. Yep. And as all these ults come out, remember that the attackers, one of the rules with the inherent rules with attack versus defense is attackers can choose not to attack, right? So if we just talk about this, if the defense is set up here, and think conceptually, they're set up at this square, and the attackers go to attack, and the defense uses ults, the attackers can just disengage, right? The defense doesn't have that ability because they have to defend on this cart. They don't have the ability to disengage. If they do, they have to sacrifice parts, right? They have to put something out there to essentially die. So all these ults come out and they're just like, yeah, cool shit. We're just going to back away. So, but notice, the Widow's still back here. Everyone is still pretty much safe. The Winston tries to get something. Everything's going to collapse on him. Keeps going for the Widow. But the Widow's pocketed. There's no real threat. And Carpe is Carpe, so he gets a headshot while getting smacked around. And now, they just go back to exactly what they did before. Right? Widow sits back. Everyone puts pressure on the point. And you're good. So that idea of gating, where dive can dive this far, so Widow will sit here. And as the dive gets closer, the Widow backs up the exact right amount of space. So, Well, yeah. Susanoo says that shot was nutty. It was, but what was actually nuttier was the movement and how they kept this distance. And like I said, in fighting, we call it gating. Just to understand your gates.
3 minutes and 4 seconds on the clock.
So that was very, very well done by Philadelphia. Like, it can't. That's exactly what you would expect out of a pro team.
Himself a very good first half. You know, he's good on their Route 66 against the London Spitfire. 12 limbs, 5 final blows, 0.
Do you think that's more of a game sense thing? Yes. So, let's just talk about this for a second. So Susanoo makes a good question, or asks a good question. This distance, this what I would call gating, is part of, I would consider it game sense. It's like when I just know something, when I look at someone, I was like, all right, that's a soldier. I'm at like 50 meters. I know his fall-off starts at 35. He's probably doing maybe half damage. With fall-off, wherever it starts at, like 35 meters for soldiers, where he's doing 100% damage. Soldier's fall-off ends at 55 meters. That means he does, it's roughly like 30%. If you want to think about it, McCree does 70 damage max. At max fall-off, he does 22. So whatever that difference is, it's like 30%. Or close enough. So they lose that much damage. And I just know whenever I'm in the game, whoever I'm playing against, I've played the game for so long, and I know each hero. I'm like, this distance, alright, D.Va, not really a big threat. She can be, but she has to use some abilities that can just run away and all this stuff. So just knowing everything's effective range and what they can do and what they will do and stuff like that, it all falls under game sense. So this idea of, hey, a Winston, how far can a Winston dive? Right about here. Like, you don't need to know the actual meters. You don't need to know the number. But you need to know what it should feel like. And you're like, all right, if he jumps from there, I need to go over there, and he can't jump on me again. Same thing with D.Va's stuff. How long a triple or a double dash from Tracer can go. Genji's dash. Just knowing all of these distances. Again, not in meters. Just, am I safe here or am I not? It's a good skill to have. In fact, it's a necessary skill to have. So yeah, I would chuck it up under game sense for that question. Oh, there we go.
Carpe had a feeling that New York might try and wrap around and get him, but again, it was just the bait. The rest of the Fusion is sat here on the payload, and Jonak was in danger.
And so, that's just a good pick. And then Genji gets stuck on some boxes and gets another pick. So this opens up the entire point. And I know a lot of people at this point, they're like, oh, like, they see what happens after this point as impressive. I don't really care what happens after this point, unless New York does something crazy to overcome a... Well, okay, and Arc just died. So these characters are dead. If New York does something to overcome like a 3v6 disadvantage, this is where I would actually study it in depth to be like, all right, what the hell did they do? But since Fusion has such a big advantage right now, I'm just like, all right, they're probably all going to die. It's no big deal. I don't care. Whatever happens here, I like, this is pretty much meaningless to me. As an analyst, I could care less. The only thing I would say about this is notice how he keeps on meleeing her. And that's because once the blink was used, or the recall, he just wanted to get consistent damage out. He wasn't going for a kill, just consistent damage.
Just the insane one. So fun to watch Carpe play. As Philadelphia has been making like a stage 1 composition work here, you know, playing around this Widow and Mercy.
So here we go. We see him putting pressure on both sides. Widow's getting some picks at distance. There's nothing much to talk about. Essentially, ults are traded. And it more or less is a wash. And at this distance on this map, I would say it doesn't favor either team.
They don't have Fraggy though, so you miss your main tanker, so you have to wait just a few seconds for Fraggy to get back in the action. Then you have a Transcendence to use.
So right here, no big deal. They're just vying for position. It's pretty standard, right? D.Va's up front. Winston's looking to make a dive. The Tracer, as always, if people don't know this already, Tracer's usually the one to initiate a dive by getting someone down, I would say, like, 30% health. Not to 30%, but they take off the first 30%. Usually it's a support or a DPSer, and they try to just make them a little bit softer for the tanks to come in. And that's usually what initiates. This is the important one. So, but Tracer does lose against the Winston, and this is all space for the Widow. They're doing a good job, though. They're just not giving her line of sight. And then Jonak does the Jonak stuff again. And now this pick essentially sets them all back. So nothing of note. I would say this Winston ult's a little bit funky. I say it's funky because Fusion were already backed up, and I guess I'm a little bit of the greedier sense that I would like to use that ult when you needed to, like, when an attack was coming in, right? Usually Overwatch happens in cycles. It's in waves. So it's really weird that a Winston, he ulted at this point. When they're already backing up there and there's no threat. Usually you want to ult at, like, this point. Usually this point's too late. And this is, as a Junkrat, I do the opposite of this. So if you, well, no, I would say I would do it, I shift this. Junkrat, I want to ult it these times. Not on this one. This one's ugly. Look at this one. This one's pretty. As the fight is just starting to ramp up, or as it's ramping down. Usually I want to be doing damage at the high points, and as the battles start and fall. So yeah, it was just an ult. He does get a D-mech. That's actually really good.
Seems to be a net positive for the Fusion, and they keep pressing forward. Carpe refusing to give an inch now. Literally and physically now, as he steps a long way forward. This is very aggressive positioning. And Nibro's blown up Snillo, so that's one that's Tracer.
So I just want to note this just because I fucking hate Tracers. Tracer's right here. She gets trapped and dies. The rest of Fusion is looking this way. So the Mercy goes to res. And well, yeah, that's what happens when you go to res someone in a small room. It was just giving up. So a good this entire engagement was disengaged. It all stopped because of a Junkrat trap. So if anyone tells you, hey, traps aren't really strong, they don't do that much, it literally ended a push that was really important, because that was at like 30 seconds when you would want to do a final push, and now this last push is going to be rushed. Yeah, it was just a good trap, good kill. They try to fix it. Pressure was still there because no one helped the Mercy, and that was it. So, good pick. Ults come out. But Zen ult kind of negates all of this. Gets nothing. But Dive is trying to get on cart, and Dive isn't the strongest when they're stuck in a very small contained area, especially when this whole thing started off with the Zen ult that used up all of New York, Fusion's ults. And that's it. Not much to talk about in that last part. There's just a large ult advantage. I didn't write down how many ults they had advantage of, but let's just go back a little bit. Okay, so we went too far back. So it's like 4 ults to 4 ults. There comes the Zen ult just to get to the cart. The thing is they can weather it out. And this is kind of what Junkrat excels at. I know he's dead. But essentially, not just because of overtime, but because of Junkrat and whatnot. As a team wants to cover a lot of distance, so like the point was over here, they were over here. They need to cover this distance very fast and safely, and because of overtime, they're just forced. They're forced out to ult these two, ult this, and everything's forced to come out so they can make this distance as quickly and as safely as possible. In fact, it goes very well for them because they also get there safely, but they also get a pick. The problem is that this distance takes time. And essentially, they just have to weather out the storm for the entire ult that if it goes to, it's hard to draw this, but it's going to go on for like a couple more seconds. So if they weather out this time for just about this long, then all of a sudden they use their ults, and it's all kind of for naught. And that's exactly what happens. Good Tracer ult, but guess what happened? Zen ult. Gets healed immediately. She's not doing damage. She's not doing damage. Nothing happened. And right now, just Transcendence is stopping everything. So all that distance they had to cover safely got pushed back, more or less, because of the Zen ult. They had to disengage, right? They don't want to sit on top. They don't want to sit in this space when Zen ult's going off, because they're just going to die. Like, you're trying to kill a target that cannot be killed. So they have to back off again, and then as soon as Zen ult ends, they have to re-engage, and again, they have to cross this distance, but now they're out of abilities and ultimate, so they just take too much damage and die.
These two players, Sabiobi trying to step forward and stand and deliver, but Sabiobi was there and down. And now Snillo trying to stay alive.
That's it.
Nice trap though. Libero puts it down and Carpe's too far away.
So, whoa, we just went way too fast. Look at that guy's beard. What a beard. No beard. Get a beard. Fix that. He's trying.
Reinhardt, Doomfist, McCree,
Just skip ahead.
Phase one, very different story, man. Yeah, I saw that quite frequently. Carpe, okay.
That's a glitch. That's an unintended mechanic.
Wondering what NYXL decides to go with. Do they go with this Narisa Roadhog setup?
So what do we see here? Well, let's wait till they go out of spawn first, so we can actually see what they're doing. So we kind of see the same deal. Actually, I think this is, outside of the hog, I think this is exactly the same, but the sides are switched. So this is Dive with Widow on defense. Again, they're doing that where they try to hold the wall and that buy space for the Widow. These guys are doing a little bit of the opposite. Again, where they're trying to push forward to buy their space, buy their Widow space. The difference is with hog is that they don't have to push as far forward because they are almost enticing someone to jump in because they got Hook and Junkrat, which kills most heroes.
You already mentioned he was pretty passive in the last series, right? He's able to finish off a lot of these kills, but not exactly like darting in there just like...
So, look, there's no defense. Nothing's happening so far. And at this point, if you don't see anything on top, in fact, I would say on any map, if on any map you're in a situation where like you go around the corner and you're like, there's usually a team here. Someone should be shooting at me or defending right now. The first thing you have to do, check your flanks because something sneaky is up, right? If they're not in the normal spot and they're not doing the honest thing, they're doing something fucking sneaky. So you got to check your flanks and see what's going on there. Expect something unexpected. You know, you got to do that shit.
Yeah, he's definitely less committal than some other traces.
So there, here it is.
I've called it a cactus composition before because there's also sort of
and now, I just want everyone to look and appreciate this. It was a discorded, damage boosted Junkrat and an Orisa to take out the Diva. She gets destroyed. That was about 3 hits. And if people don't know, a damage boosted discorded target from Junkrat takes, I think it's like 202 damage. So I think she got 3-shotted. So Winston, being the tank that's left, he's like, alright, I'll try to slow him down. He jumps in, but he has to leave because he's just taking way too much damage. Like, this comp is just pushing right into his face. He gets killed, and now it's no tanks against a full team. Right, it's a 6v4 right now. And even though it's a 6v4, watch what Sabioli does right now.
So you lose both your tanks here for Philadelphia. So that's going to be a hook that comes in from Meko on a boombox, and there's not a great way.
While he does reload and he hides behind here to reload,
that barrier to hide behind.
He's only at 23 bullets. But more importantly, what he's doing is he's buying time. And I think this is underappreciated, and this is the big difference between ladder and competitive games. On the ladder, most Widows would jump out of here and try to take the Widow 1v1, right? That's just what people do. They try to take this 1v1. But in a competitive game, or I wouldn't say a competitive game, on a tournament game, you want to do what gives you the highest chance of winning this point, which is what? don't take the fucking 1v1. They're down their tanks. They have no tanks. This Widow is unprotected. So just chill for like 3 seconds, allow your team to push forward, which puts them in distance to attack the Widow, which is going to scare her out of there. And, like, even though you don't kill her, whatever. Like, that's no big deal. You take the point. That's a win. So you just buying time. And then Widow's like, oh, shit. And right there, the Widow took, I believe it was a... I'm going to say that was a concussive mine. And at that point, it's like, well, okay. Widow doesn't want to deal with any of that. Right, and she just leaves, which is great. Like, wonderful. Again, another underrated play. It's a smart play, and it went very well. It was these small little details that I like to focus on, because people do something completely different on the ladder. They would jump out and try to take that 1v1, and then Widow gets picked, and then it's something else. So, because he left, so this is the also thing. Because Carpe left and said, I'm not taking that 1v1, he got into position at a faster time than he would have if he tried to take that, died, and then respawned and got here. So, perfect. This is like an exact thing. This is the exact advantage that he got. He's like, alright, you win this fight right now, but I'm going to be in position, and now when you try to get in a position, because if you think Walch Point Gibraltar is bad to get through, when you have a choke point here, 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 and here, this map, we're going to find out for a Widow. You can go out this exit, and then this one. That's it. You are really, really constrained on the angles you can get out of. And we're going to see how this absolutely backfires.
Carpe will be waiting.
Yes, Milo's camp in the body as well, so have that waiting there. But if you're Philadelphia, this is where you would really love to bring Genji in, right? Genji's extremely effective.
So they got the Widow pick. Everyone's just vying for space, just poking, prodding, see where people are at. But Snillo doing the super douchebag thing to do, and he's spawn camping. Not only is he spawn camping, but Winston's spawn camping with him. What do they do after this? They flank around behind, get the supports, and at this point, the push is over. I mean, it's a scumbag tactic, but man, is it effective. It works. It works so goddamn well. And now we will see Sabioli being in this really, really bad position. Also, we're going to see, look how high everyone's ult percentage is. This is a decision that I think more teams need to make faster. If you don't believe your composition is going to work or it doesn't give you the best chance to win, change it immediately. Do not say, oh, let's all get all our ults and then try it with our ults and see if that works. It just wastes too much time, and we're going to see this. So they got their ass kicked, and they got their ass kicked about 20 or about 15 seconds ago. So about 4:30. Now let's just remember that 4:30. That's how much time they got left on the clock when this composition first failed.
Putting any pressure on Carpe in the back. Who is putting damage down on Boombox? It's not like they can dive these players.
So here we go. They're just pushing forward, and now we start seeing this issue. Not only do we start seeing an issue with Widow, she only has 2 points to really push out of to get a snipe. But because they have an Orisa, they kind of have to like leapfrog every 8 seconds. And that's the only way to get a Widow a shielded spot. It's slow. It's not that it's bad, it's slow. So there it goes, shield went down, and now the Widow's just like trying to find something. But they're just waiting out the Widow ulti. So now here comes another ult, and they just kind of disengage. They run back, they yield some distance, and gets nothing. At this point, it's off camera because essentially all of New York, Excelsior winning here, they were in a really small space, and it doesn't show it. But Snilio, Pulse Bomb, you can hear it.
does take a bit of splash.
Bombs away. It sticks. And it's a discorded hog getting pulse bombed, who dies near instantly, but he gets headshotted right after that. And now once that pick comes out, essentially this composition is really weak to Tracer. Once the hog is out, Tracer kind of has free reign. You know, Widow can get some sight lines, but on this point, it's really difficult, especially when they're fighting in the house. So what does she do? She picks off the next DPS target, also a very hard target for Junkrat to kill. And the push has been killed. So I think they just kind of pushed a little bit too hard into the house. Their Widow had no time to get a pick. And now, they changed their comp. And they're going to push at about 3 minutes. So they wasted a minute and a half with a composition, because we said it was at 4:30. It's at 3 o'clock. It's a minute and a half they lost, which is a lot of time. Not only did they lose a minute and a half, no ultimates. Everyone changed. There's no ultimates. Except for Jonak. So, technically,
my genius is finally recognized.
We're going to see. We have to wait for these guys to get ultimates, and then we can be like, alright, now they finally made up the time. And that is going to take some time. So the Winston, he saw the low Mercy, he goes in, he has ultimate because of the ult advantage, and he baits out the Zen ult. Right? The one ultimate they have, they just bait it out with Fraggy. And what does Fraggy do? He just leaves. Why? Look at his health. 901. He doesn't give anyone a chance to build ultimate. Right now, they are abusing the hell out of their ultimate advantage, and they're going for, like, super efficient economy. So, Widow ult comes out, and now we kind of see their lineup, and I just looked at this for a brief second, and I was like, oh man, I really like how Fusion's set up. Right? Because the Widow's way back here, the Zen's way back here, Mercy's way back here. We got the D.Va and the Winston up, so they have to kind of go through the D.Va Winston to try to get to anything over here. And I'm like, oh man, with Tracer back here, it really puts these guys in a bad spot. Right? It really pins them in. The tanks can't dive as easily because the Tracer's back here. And that's what happens. See how the D.Va has to come back. They try to make a dive. They don't get anything, but they just wanted to pressure it out. And then something opens up, right? So this is something Wing Chun and Tai Chi, these two martial arts, have there's a way to develop a specific skill both of these arts are looking at. And it has to do with sensitivity. And, it's called push hands in Tai Chi, and it's Chi Sao in Wing Chun. And a lot of these times, when you want just something to happen, I call it you stir the pot. And it's just something like, everything's going status quo, and you're just like, you just want to fuck something up. Right? This may be a dumb attack, I just want something to get fucked up. And so stirring the pot is, you'll do something, kind of just something to make something change, to make things different. That's kind of how I see dive comp. When you have two things, like, it's one thing if dive comp is working against dive comp and you're just in this poke phase and nothing really big's happening. What dive does, it's like, all right, I'm going to dive into Winston, and you have to react, and then dive looks to take advantage of any mistakes you made. Right? It tries to keep you honest by attacking you and forcing a response out. If you don't respond properly, you're going to lose. If you respond properly, it's probably going to be a wash, or they just jump out or something like that. But they're definitely looking for mistakes. And the more decisions you make someone make, the higher chance they have of making a mistake that you can finally take an advantage of. So you just have to cause a disturbance. And yeah, Susanoo, another reason why trash damage is in the thing. That is 100% correct. If I'm playing Junkrat, I normally play Junkrat, and both teams are just in their poke phase, and all of a sudden, I hit their support way in the back with a grenade, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, whoa, we gotta back up. It's like, all right, did you back up properly? If you didn't, my team can take advantage of that. All right, did you heal properly? Well, if you didn't, then my next grenade could kill someone. It muddies the water. It essentially, like I said, stirring the pot. Basically, everything's settled to the bottom. Everything's settled. It's kind of a clear water. I want to make it murky again. I want to dig up all that stuff and just make it hell again. And through that hell, if you make the wrong decision, I'll capitalize on it and I'll win. So that's what Dive does here in this video. So that's basically what Tracer does. And then we're going to see this dive by Winston. Well, Carpe got a good pick. And now it's like everyone just jump on someone. Kill him. Kill him, kill him, kill him. They couldn't get it, but Arc does ult to make this push stay. So this is an interesting decision because, well, it's not that interesting because of the skill. But it's interesting because they're like, all right, we're down 1, but we're still going to try to push because we don't want to give up this distance, right? Because they came through the choke point. They dealt with the hardest part about this point. You need a mod. I don't know why you need a mod. But the hardest part about any point is getting through the choke points. And so Arc is like, let's not go through that shit again. Yeah, we lost Sabioli, but it is a Tracer. He can dash in. We'll be fine. So they're going to sustain right now, and they're going to try to keep this positioning. But Neptuno responds with an ult of his own. Pulse bomb misses, no big deal. But it's pretty even. No big deal. Mercy gets a res. And now, as Dive commits, we see the Zen ult come out. Which is perfect. Right now, we are finally seeing... So, Mecha almost has an ult. Half almost has an ult. 70% for these guys. We are now seeing the ultimate economy finally come into play. Right? Like, everyone always says, hey, they got an ult advantage, watch out. I don't give a fuck. When does the ultimate advantage actually matter? When I got an ultimate and I use it. And so it makes sense, when someone's at 0%, why would I want to use my ultimate advantage there? Unless I desperately have to. Right? If you're at 0% ult, then I kind of reset my ult, and if we don't win the battle, we're at the same. In fact, I put myself in a deficit. We've evened it out. I've given up my advantage. But if I wait till you're like 70%, and you've wasted the 0 to 70% time, Overwatch is a time-based game. Never forget that. So they spent a minute and a quarter, roughly, building up this ult percentage. That's when you dunk on them, right? That's when you want them to waste as much time as possible. And so it took a minute and a quarter. But now we're finally see them using all the ults that they had advantage on. And you can see, very few people have ults. Mercy used it. They responded with their own Mercy ult. But now with the Zen ult, they're going to put their pressure. So bam, ult advantage. Excelsior, they have to back out now. Right? Mercy gets dove. They start taking a numbers advantage. But, guess what? Jonak. Motherfucking Jonak starts whooping ass. But it's a little bit too late. We got 3 people here. We got 4 people here. And I think actually one of the New York Excelsiors is just getting back from spawn too. Yeah, Mano still won't be here. Mano is still getting back into the battle. So they have a huge advantage right here in numbers. I wouldn't say a huge advantage. They have an advantage, a slight advantage. But they take advantage of that, and they start crushing. And all of a sudden, they're going to take this, right? They got 2 supports and a tank that, right here, Mecho's dead, right? So the ult advantage, I would say the ult advantage is finally nullified right here. So what did they do? They could have swapped at 4:30. It took them until 3 minutes to actually swap heroes. And it took them to 1:15 to regain, to nullify the ult advantage. This is why you switch heroes as fast as frickin' possible, even if you have ultimates. You've wasted 3 minutes. That's a majority of your time. That is your time, as far as I'm concerned.
Some big kills there that come out from Poco and Boombox.
If you ever have a question, do I save my class now and use my ultimate to try to win? Or do I switch to a hero that can win with the hero advantage? Switch.
This is a must-win fight for the NYXL. Ark is sick of getting taken down by Fraggy, and he switches over to the Lucio now. So it might be, again...
And this is a funny part. So Carpe ults, and Excelsior just don't push in. This is another 10 seconds off the clock.
Probably coming up because you're going to have Dragonblade and Transcendence coming online. You know, after that, if you don't get great value out of those, you're really
Vision ends. They go into the small house. This was a huge DMAC. And so let's just bust up the calculator again. So our friend Calculator, Pulse Bomb, 400 damage. Oh, not 4,000. That's crazy. Times Mercy's 1.3 boost. Because I'm pretty sure she gets boosted by that. And then boosted another 30% by Zen Discord. That takes out anyone in the game outside of an ulting Winston. I'm pretty sure it does. I'm not 100% sure on that mechanic, but it DMAX Diva every single time. So, supports get dove. Ults come out. And this is classic dive right here. Just get on the supports, try to kill him. Carpe's doing a really good job just getting away, but they can't get it. And here, it's good to note. So I just want to say something. So Poco just used his ultimate at 5 1/4, or like 5 seconds left. Five seconds left. Let's just... All right, so there's Poco. He has his ult, and I just want you to. I just want to show something really quick. Poco still has his ult. Hasn't used it yet. There we go. So Poco, last time he used his ult. Well, no, he didn't. That was when he first gained it. That was his first ult of the game. On the first push, he had it the entire time. Essentially, he never had to use his ult because everyone on his team used ults before him, and he was never in a place where he needed to use it. So whenever you think about ult advantage, sometimes it takes a long, long time to actually see that come out in fruition. Oh yeah, I know it's I know Mercy buff and Zen's debuff. They act. It's multiplicative, so it stacks. I'm just not 100% sure if Tracer's Pulse Bomb gets boosted by Mercy. I know it does. I know it gets boosted by Discord. And now this is a weird thing. So here we go. Here's that last push. So they did get it. They finally bought enough space with ultimates. And now this is really weird. This silhouette, you can hardly see, is a Winston. And now we're going to see Diva and Tracer, obviously, get out of here. Right? They want to reset up in a spot that's... When you're overtime, you want to attack at a spot where you have the highest advantage. And right here is just they're not set up properly for this because of respawns and whatnot. But Winston isn't a small guy, and I don't think he can hide in that corner, but he tries to leave right now. Right, there he is. Bam! Instantly, he's just deleted. He gets deleted instantly. And alright, so it seemed like a... It seemed like a misplay. In fact, I would say it does seem like a misplay. I would say it is a misplay. To lose one of your tanks at that point in time in overtime, so it has the longer respawn, it's tough.
A pulse bomb in the doorway could be just what the doctor ordered. I mean, that's not the kind of doctor you want to see, to be honest.
And so they finally get the Winston here. The Winston's coming up right now, and they're doing the very classic thing of we're going to send the tanks out here, we're going to push through here as well, and then they're going to push through the other side. So there's the Winston. Pulse Bomb gets eaten. That's a very important Pulse Bomb to eat. And now at this point, Tracer actually went through here. Tracer actually went up here and dashed off that way. We see people coming through here, and we see them coming out the one to defend this. So here's the really crazy thing. Mercy ults first, and look how close Zen is. Also, I should mention Carpe is on McCree, and that's actually really important because as they're fighting for positioning here, Genji's gonna come down here and just be like, "All right, I'm gonna try to deflect this flashbang, see what I can get." But this idea, it's no fault on who's playing Libero. Like Libero doesn't know Zenyatta's 5% away from an ult, but he had to do the safe thing. He had to come in here try to bait out abilities. But this whole stall tactic actually bites him in the ass because Zen got his ult in that time. And with Zen ult, they can't do much. It was a good idea to just, I mean, I don't want to say Fusion planned it to use your Mercy ult to buy time for the Zen ult. That's how it worked out, but it wasn't planned that way. It was like, it was a bad situation. Mercy had to ult. Zen got his ult after that, and that's how it kind of cleaned up.
Snillo big yet again, Mitch. 38 limbs, 18 final blows, 19 final blows for Carpe.
Yeah, and this entire loss is because of this. I'm not saying this lineup can't work, but these tanks in particular aren't the best when working together. At least on this map, on this point, on this map. A Widow, when the defense is set up on point 2, Route 66, Widow has a really hard time of getting a clean shot if the Widow on the other team is equally as skilled and has support. Because, you know what, I got a picture for this. Yeah, sweet. We'll use blue. It can be seen here. Because you have this point, which is a rather large choke point to come out of, and it doesn't give the best sight lines. This point right here is better, because you can actually see this way and this way. When you're on the low ground here, you can't really see too well up here. It's tough. And being out here, while it is good, I mean, it's a very narrow sight point. And with a Orisa, you can only go up a little bit at a time, or however greedy you feel like pushing up with a shield to protect your Widow. And the Hog really doesn't protect her unless you want to sit right in front of the Widow where she can't snipe properly. Along with not switching fast enough, it ate up essentially 3.5 minutes. That's more than anything what really happened on this point.
Liberone has a couple more seconds out.
But overall, I think it was really well played by Fusion. I mean, they definitely deserve the win on this one. Too fast, too fast. So, first map to Fusion. Now we're at Lijiang Tower. Come on, I don't got all day, guys. And here we go. What do we got? We kind of got... Well, we don't kinda. We do have dive. Full-on dive. And here we have that same Roadhog Junkrat composition. Now, they are using a Reinhardt instead, and they got a Moira, so they're definitely going to use the 3 tanks to just build up ult.
They're going to kind of play like it is with the Moira, the Roadhog in there. No Zarya, though, for the NYXL. So it's a very similar composition.
And I like how New York approaches this point. So, these heroes, in general, Junkrat, Moira, Reinhardt, and Roadhog, they work really well in alleys and choke points. Like this. Or this. Or let's say the entire outside of this point. Right? This entire outside of this point is all linear, like, distances. Right? I mean, look how short this point... Right? Everything here is just narrow hallways. This is great for this linear-based comp.
really punish positional mistakes.
So what happens? Well, not a lot of place to go when there's a Junkrat there and everything else. So this gives them the point. I mean, they just really capitalize on this.
You had Sabiel be here on Roadhog and Libero playing Junkrat. Have to be extremely careful. Oh, the hook on a Poco, but he gets stuck on the snap.
Now,
So now obviously hook 2.
you know what? I'll just pull out the picture of this map. We are on this one. Oh, I need to get the higher res one. But yeah, so this is what I was talking about. The linear paths, right? Linear. This is very linear. This is very linear. When they gotta go through the choke points, very linear. Same thing right here. All these choke points. I mean, it's perfect for this composition. But Fusion do the correct thing, and Fusion, when they came out, they saw them take the point. So what they did, as a dive comp, you want to actually spread out and attack through multiple angles, right? And that's what they did. In fact, let me just do yellow instead. They wrapped all the way around to push here, and then some pressure to push here, which is what you want to do as dive. You want to kind of spread out and use that advantage. So that's why when they came into the courtyard right here, a little bit strange, but here they don't, right? They stay inside. They're using this close quarters advantage. Yeah. And this is perfect for this composition. This is great. Like, this is how you want to play it. Not much more to be said. And now, I get that you want to push up to the choke. It's not a bad idea, especially with a Junkrat. But we're going to see.
A Reaper with the Junkrat, right? Just trying to like break things down and get like a Reinhardt in the mix and try and just work on in. So
we're going to see Dive do its thing.
Obviously, Zarya can get pretty charged up off of these Junkrat
And the Tracer was actually behind this whole time, I believe. No, she was in front. She's flanking right now. So this is the point where I'm like, all right, why is New York taking this fight in the middle of the yard? They don't excel in these open spaces. They should be backing up on the point right now and forcing the team to deal with choke points. They don't, though. And the Tracer flanked and got Junkrat with a pulse bomb. And this is kind of the beginning of the end. Now they have an advantage, and they got someone in their back lines, and they're down a man. So Moira had to ult, and she's not ulting the things she wants to ult. And it's kind of like they're down so many numbers, it's just kind of pointless at this point. Very, very questionable, and I don't mind the stall, but it's just very questionable that they took the open ground fight. I really think they should have stayed on point. That's where they were strong at, especially with the Moira ult. And I like this, and now we see the change. Right, Tracer, right away. Bam. Perfect.
And that's scary against a team like Philly, because Philly's just a team that's going to come out here and just brawl, right? You know, they're going to scrap kings.
It should also be noted that this Zarya got 100% ult in that time in one push, which is really good. And that's kind of what sets this whole shebang up. I don't think New York expected the Zarya to be that charged at that point in time, like to have an ult. But for it to get 100% in one fight, damn good job. And that is actually because of, before this composition, they ran a Reinhardt Diva Hog. A hard. And actually, Zarya was eating them up. I guess we could, I mean, why not? I'll show you guys. And this is actually one of the bad parts about diving on point and trying to just stall it. Because look, she's at 3%. 12%, not a big deal. She didn't really gain that much ult or that much charge from people. So she got some damage on Reinhardt. She's now gonna put some damage on the Hog. Right, she got a lot there. And then we're going to see her get a ton of charge on this Diva. Right there's 10. She got 15% from the Diva, up to 80%, 20% from her. And as they disengage, she gets 5% more. So it was an advantage. She just took advantage of the trip tank. And one trick Symmetra says, I find this to be the problem with triple and quad tank. Yeah, it is. There's a lot of hit points to take care of. If you can clear the hit points, you get a huge ult advantage. If you can't clear the hit points, you lose. So you just see this whole thing take off. We see it again. Perfect. And so we see a big change now. We got the Tracer, we got the Winston now. Junkrat with Pharah. And we see a new comp come out. Moira ult, just to deal with this stuff. Now, it was a very... so everyone, and even the announcers are like, oh my god, they double support ulted! What a bunch of idiots! You're going to see the Zen just get dunked on very, very soon. Boombox, essentially, right there. In those second and a half, he almost died, and that's why that ult came out. The D.Va ult was... the D.Va ult essentially zoned the Genji out. But Pharah actually takes his point. So, we already see Zen die to Concussive Blast. This fight is going... It could go either way. And then she gets another... I thought that was another kill from the Pulse. Or Concussive Blast, I should say. But they essentially just dove the back lines, did enough damage. And the announcers kind of annoy me on this one. They're like, oh man, they didn't have a D.Va or, you know, whatnot to deal with this, and that's why they won. She only got 36%, not a big deal.
Not a lot of DPS heroes that EQO doesn't frag out on. We saw the McCree appear during an earlier series, of course.
So this is just normal Pharah stuff. This is Pharah's strongest advantage, if anyone's wondering. There's a choke point, and there is a ceiling. Or, I mean, there's a wall. You can't get line of sight on her, but she can hit you with splash damage by attacking like this. The last, and what I would credit the last point to was not the Pharah, is essentially a lot of support ults were wasted. Actually, a lot of ults were wasted in general, and it kind of bought him enough time. Here, well, besides my voice cracking, the Tracer backcaps and almost gets it. So the entire team falls back, but as they fall back, they actually fall back through the choke point just to live, which gives them the point. But they didn't suffer too many losses, so it was a good retreat. Winston stays on the Winston stays on the Zen, gets a kill, and now it doesn't seem very big. But they traded a Winston for a Zen. It doesn't seem huge, but their only other hero healer is a Lucio. And we're going to see Lucio take a lot of damage really quick, and he has to get out. And now we're seeing a team that can't be healed against a team that can, and more importantly, a frickin' Moira ult that is just going to be chunking down anyone in the game. So everything's just slowly dying. D.Va slowly dying. Everyone else slowly died. It swaps, and now Pharah's in a very dangerous spot. Boombox dies. At this point, it's not a big waste of an ult, but Pharah being in there and forcing everyone on point with ultimate, it was essentially sealed the deal. Reinhardt, what up? So, good job on New York Excelsior's part, but the Fusion really bit it with that one botched defense. They did use 2 support ults, but that was forced. It was the other ults afterwards that got nothing that really kind of sealed the deal. And so here we are on the Junkrat stage, I'll call it. So both teams nearly identical with one difference. Zarya, D.Va. Yeah, let's just see how it plays out. I will say this. Mono. Well, let's just watch the last of this point. So Reinhardt gets clobbered, but they lose a Junkrat. But the Reinhardt's a bigger piece because the Reinhardt can now bully everyone off of the point. See, like, they're all up in everyone's face. He even got a goddamn earth shatter in like 15 seconds. And they're gonna take the point. This was just very, very cocky by Mano. Look how Fusion spread out. Right? They're here, and they're here. And this is a very freaking subtle difference. And it should be noted because it is extremely smart. They came out here, and they went this way, and they kind of went this way, right? What did Mono do? Mono did the thing that everyone does and just jumped into the center. And now you're like, oh shit, I played RTSs. That's a fucking concave. Mono jumped into a concave and got destroyed from every single side. And in this point of the map, you want your Reinhardt being there. Like, you need a Reinhardt to put a shield here so you can get in deeper. I know losing one or the other, they're both bad. Like, because they lost the Junkrat and the other guy lost the Reinhardt. It doesn't matter when your team's stuck right here and being able to push into them. That positioning far outweighs the loss of a DPS. But so it was this Mono jumping into a concave all willy-nilly. I don't know if he got speed boosted or he thought the Moira was going to heal him through everything. But I mean, look, he already took, he's at half health just from the start of this. Nothing's going to survive here. Yeah, you can see right there, really, like, who's that? Oh, it's Sibiobi. So yeah, you just saw everyone attacking the Reinhardt that was right there. He just jumped into a concave. What if the Reinhardt hadn't pushed up, though? Then it kind of would have stalled out. I would say if New York Excelsior's, or not New York, if Fusion's Reinhardt just went up straight, and it would have kind of been like a Reinhardt versus Reinhardt battle. And at which point, I can't tell you how it would have gone, because, I mean, if the Junkrat got 2 grenades up here over the shield, it could have changed the battle. You know, a lot of things could have changed. But I think it would have been a lot different. Because essentially sidestepping, that Reinhardt sidestepping for a little bit, allowed him not... So when the Reinhardt stepped here for like 2 seconds, he didn't take the 2 seconds of damage from just being straight on. 2 seconds? That sounds a lot like how much D.Va can eat. So essentially, Reinhardt stepped to the side, D.Va covered the center, Reinhardt came back in with damage over the top. And it allowed their Reinhardt to live, because he didn't take the initial brunt of the burst damage, and allowed them to kill the other Rein. Which, in this point, I would say is more important. Oh, got saved by the bubble. So they back up. This is just normal vying for position. Moira ult comes out. Another one comes out. Junkrat ult comes out, which is kind of important. But all of these ults, because they're Moira, New York's Moira ulted second, Fusion is going to be on the back foot, right? They all want to back up, and you see this exact thing. Not only that, but Junkrat ult's coming in, so they want to be even further back than you think. So they essentially zoned them. And that's a good kill. But Meko gets an ult off, and it was kind of set up by Fusion themselves because they backed up so far. Because of all the other ultimates, it kind of led to this. Look at the Reinhardt just fighting each other.
charge was so long that Frag was able to extricate himself, but then the rest of the NYXL came to assist.
Does it surprise you a little bit that Philadelphia is not running this Zarya with how good that Poco is on Zarya?
You're hearing a weird knocking from my mic? It's probably could be my chair or something. But I have it in a different spot right now. So here we go. Normal pushes. Here's Junkrat ult. That ult got nothing. Good defense. Lucio ults. So this is great. Let's go back. Reinhardt ults. He does get a couple good targets. But Hog comes out and says, yeah, fuck you. This is my space. And backs everyone up. The problem is that Junkrat doesn't care if you push him back because he's going to be doing full damage. And so we see Junkrat just start chunking out the damage. So the trades between the ults, I think it favored Fusion until the Junkrat was just doing damage over the top of everything.
Just trying to spam through these chokes. It may not be enough here, Mitch, though, because you do have this rip tire to use.
Here we come, all the outs to push, and this is a nice little transaction. That Tracer flank kept the Junkrat busy the entire time. He does trap and he does get the kill, but that whole time when Junkrat was getting flanked and just dealing with the Tracer, in fact, he took a long time to kill her after he was after she was trapped. But this grab looked like it should have killed. See, look. Trapped? Should be dead now. Takes until now. Junkrat's busy, and without that, they don't have enough damage to kill everything here. Very close. Reinhardt barely gets out. And actually, I just want everyone to look at this sound barrier. I don't fully understand it myself. But at this point, it's when it gets on everyone, right? We see it on Neptuno, Poco, Fraggy. And I think this is blocking line of sight for EQO. Because EQO doesn't get it. But Boombox, who's way back here, gets it. Very strange. But that actual, that pop-up by the Reinhardt, or the Junkrat on the Reinhardt, I think saves the Reinhardt's life there. Can't get the kill. But that flank by the Tracer against the Junkrat essentially stopped enough damage from being done. Because if you... Well, let's just go back. I mean, it looked like a really, really good grab. There's a lot of damage being done. In fact, almost everyone looks like they're dying. But only the Hog dies. Sound barrier comes out, makes him buy it. That flank is a lot more important than everyone else really initially thought. Where did Lucio ult come from? The Lucio ult came from out here. Lucio ult's on the outside. Oh, in fact, that's why the Junkrat couldn't... Actually, yeah, that's it. Let me put in my notes. So, Neptuno, he's at 92%. Watch this. Look at Libero's health. He gets his ult. He's keeping the Junkrat busy, I believe, in the back. You can't see it. It's off stage. It's on the off point of the map. But he was dealing with the Junkrat, keeping him busy on the outside for him not to capitalize on this. But then he comes in and ults by that health pack and whatnot. Yeah, it was... EQO not getting it was really weird because the Moira behind EQO got it. But that was a very close call. In fact, I want to say that entire altercation, essentially revolving around the Junkrat being busy between the Tracer and the Lucio, is actually what saved them. And then that, yeah, so... Essentially, because they lost with all their ultimates, they got pushed back into this corner. And then another Grav came out, and that Grav essentially gave the entire team just a team wipe.
Maybe a big hero switch that ends up helping Philadelphia keep the Zheng Tower alive. Echo's going to have a graviton surge of his own here.
Lucio was in Grav? No, Lucio wasn't on the point at all at that point. At least from what I saw.
Could be a huge player here for Philadelphia. He has to be, man. If they use both of these ults and he lands like a big Earth Shatter to stop that follow-up.
So here comes New York's push. And all these ults are whiffed. And again, all I have to say about this is New York whiffed too many ults. Like, they should have had the advantage here. I get the Reinhardt didn't get stunned. All right, but he's stunned and that got blocked. All right, cool. That's a wash. But then this ult comes out, and the Moira can heal everyone through it. It's actually right here is not only is this heal really important, but this whole altercation. And this is why you don't want to just give up. Because we're getting to the last seconds of combat. And they're trying their damnedest to live. Which they do. Fraggy gets out. D.Va kind of gets out. D.Va's about to die here. Gets healed. And gets out of that. And this is important because there is now 7% left. Do I have a fan or something? I do. Hold on, is my other fan not off? Let me see if my mic's touching anything. For those that don't know, like the Blue Yeti, like it's really, really sensitive, which you're like, oh, that's good for a mic. And you're like, no, that's actually bad for a mic. So there's 7% left here. And I would say if these heroes all died, they would not be able to push like this if they were dead. So they can finally, they get on point like at the last second. Perfect. Like, that's all you need to do. But it was because they all survived that they could get to this point. Hog. First of all, this is a huge pick. No shield. That's great. Whole Hog doesn't really get much done. In fact, he takes a lot of damage from it. And as they push on the point, they start using their supports ults. This bullies them off. And then Poco. That's it. It was kind of a vanilla exchange between the two teams at the end there. I will say the most important part was Fusion living through that graviton. That's what gives them the point here. Because at this point, everyone's just going to run on point. This is you just got to run on point and die. It's what you have to do. Isn't there a Blue Yeti change the polar? Yeah, there is. It's only coming from my way. But yeah, like if like I just hit the pole, Blue Yeti's on very lightly. Like you guys can hear that. So yeah, I mean, it was this fight. I really don't know how they didn't get enough damage off. Moira obviously helped. I'm just trying to... Mano's right there. Fraggy barely gets out. D.Va gets out. Yeah, like they really needed to finish up. They needed to capitalize on that. It's a good push on point, but they lose Fraggy or they lose Mano right away, and that kind of breaks open this point. Remember, so because it's trip tank versus triple tank. There it is. especially this Excelsior's triple tank, they don't have mobility. So Reinhardt shield's actually a big deal to him. You really can't get, quote unquote, like around the shield. Like, oh, just walk around the shield. They don't got no mobility. They really can't do that. So yeah, that's that point. And then we get to the saddest round ever. This is one of the rounds where I'm like, this is kind of why I don't like King of the Hill. And I don't like how the people who take the point first have such an advantage.
From the Philadelphia Fusion, like you mentioned, since EQO's come in for Shadowburn, they haven't run the Pharah as much, but they're going to pull it
so
out.
EQO, I'm just gonna say at point blank, is uncontested here. No one decides to deal with them. No one even decides to put shots through this window at all. So while both teams posture, trying to get point presence, New York Excelsior, while it does have a beefier comp and it looks like they want to brawl a little bit more than this Pharah Tracer combo, no one is doing anything about this.
This war of attrition, right? This damage battle. Just trying to throw as much explosive substance at the enemy team as possible. But speaking of explosive things, the bomb may have just evened this up. Now with
support, I mean, the supports get their ults fast because of all the tanks and all the damage, but just no one addressed her at all.
And they break just as bad as my voice did.
It's pretty bad. So now Libero will play Pharah. But look at all the changes you have to make for NYXL, right? They change out, Mono, Sabio B, Jonak.
So just never looking at the Tracer in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, that'll make you lose a point. There's no analysis. There's nothing I need to talk about. Like, I would have to really look at the point and tell New York what to do if I saw their point of views and how to approach that situation. But the fact that New York did nothing but push through here, and they want to do that because they have a Moira and they want to just take advantage of that. They swapped her. But you want to take advantage of this linear healing, so to the left or to the right of the point. And so I understand that you want to keep all your heroes there. You want to get a lot of healing done. You want to get your ults quick, yada, yada, yada. But they never, check that way, check this way. Hog stepped over here for a second. They didn't even shoot through the window at all. Yeah.
83. 3 really good fights, maybe.
So you see them swap here. New York swaps straight all the dive, except for Pharah. Here's a Transcendence. And with a couple picks, get him. Get him. He'll get him. Don't worry about it. I saw it before. See. So they take... All it took was Zen, and they got one pick on the Winston because he had a backup. He died before he got a health pack. Not a big loss, you would think, but watch. This kind of makes the next part kind of sad.
For Libero, so they brought it back in terms of ultimate economy, right? But they've set themselves far back in terms of percentage.
All right, Zen dies. So what do? They back out again.
Interested in trying to do, but Carpe loves nothing more than to turn those Omnics into metal mocks.
Yeah, 7 pulse bomb kills for Carpe
Jonak
so far on
finally respawns, and that one kill bought them about a 20% on point.
Extended period on the previous.
Carpe's getting one kill per pulse bomb at least. That's what his efficiency is right now. So that's big. EQO with
They're 85% by the time they attack. He just... It's a little bit of a cocky ult, but he gets it done. But then the fight happens on point, and there's not much to talk about. Support ults didn't really come out until a little bit too late. Other than that, here comes the support ults now while they're on point fighting. So you saw how they backed out. They allowed... You can barely see it. You can see Excelsior is right up here on the capture point. So they allowed them to capture all the way up to here, and then they re-engage. So they bought just a little bit of time just for the... Essentially, you want the team to group up, and you want to group up yourself so you can ult with your supports, get a lot of healing done or sound barriers done, and then just jump on the enemy with that. And so there's one support ult to get them on point, and there's the Zen ult secondly to clean all this up. Cocky ult, is it more like being safe? No, I would say that was a cocky ult. I think he could have shot one attack at him, or two, or done something like that. But it's maps like that where I'm like, man, all it took was a Winston pick after they had lost the point. That got him the second fight. A Zen got pulsed. That was the third fight. And then they had to dive on the point because they had to, which puts them at a disadvantage because they're forced on the point while the defense doesn't have to. That's why I don't like King of the Hills right now. I mean, it's not bad, but whoever takes the point first really has a significant advantage. Oh, that was a replay. And now, let me just get a glass of water. I will play you some... I'll play you the music of my people. Ah, yes, the music of my people. The majestic tunes. Actually... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Alright. Be right back, guys.
Genius is finally recognized.
That's enough of bitches don't know my beeps. Yeah. Let's get rid of that picture. Cool, cool, cool. Alright. Now we're on Volskaya. And this is where we see Excelsior just being like, alright, we're done fucking around, guys. So, we should just notice it's identical comps, isn't it? Tracer, Winston, Diva, Zen, Mercy. Yeah, it's identical comps. So it's Dive plus Widow, which is becoming very, very, very popular. Again, both teams, we've said this on Route 66, the same thing. Defensive dive, essentially, basically both teams want to aggress to allow their Widow to have space to shoot. It really does come down, a lot of this is dependent on the Widow v Widow battle.
Try and take it to a map 4 here. So EQO was already extended far forward. Even Boombox is that's ballsy to to stand up that far, but you see Poco was by choice.
They're trying to cause a little bit of misdirection because they have Carpe underneath on this right-hand side. You can see here, he's trying to force these.
So here's, you know, they're taking a lot. So flanking takes time. I've always said this. This is what we say all the time. That cracking you heard there was my elbow. Feels better now. Besides Libero taking out EQO, this Tracer that takes... We are at 33 seconds into the game now to get to this point.
Down to the point. It's just taking a very long time here. Now he's kind of found Jonak on his own, but...
And almost got his ass kicked. I just want everyone to show... So, I think Jonak heard that. You can hear when people drop down. And that was one attack, by the way.
All his teammates are dead.
Yeah, a bit annoying for Carpe. He spent so much time setting that up, and Jonak.
Yeah.
What are you doing behind me, fam? Cleans him up pretty comfortably there. It was. We did hear a lot of shots being fired, so Libero was.
So yeah, they flanked a little bit too much, bought a little bit too much time.
A little bit of a snafu here, splitting across this first point.
And now that one failed push, 1 minute's eaten off the clock.
First two games of a series are necessarily easy.
So that one not much talked about, except for the flanking take time and the Widow losing the Widow battle.
It was very impressive that Philly's able to close out London Spitfire. This one's going to be
that was just good. Essentially, and I hope everyone noticed how
this one's going to be even tougher because
and everyone look, Dive is already on them. When you take a hit like that, just get on them. You get a numbers advantage, Dive once the numbers advantage, just take it. But the res to get off.
Libero was posing. They're not really going to great lengths at trying to remove him from the equation yet. Carpe's flanking wide, and Libero doesn't spot him. I think Carpe's actually on the
So what you saw right there, why... I think you'll see this a couple times this match. He looks down and then turns around to minimize his headshot box. He knows he missed the shot. He can't get another one. He's playing damage control so he doesn't die immediately. And I think it should be noted, Tracer is already here, and so was the Winston. That's how fast they jumped over. So he's like, Widow over there, go get him.
Also unaware. Now he spots Carpe. Groups up with Frag, sits under the watchful gaze of his big brother.
So this is very important, the Tracer, keeping everyone occupied right here. Notice how everyone is occupied right here, right? That they weren't allowed the opportunity to go on the point and set up there.
Two halves of the Philadelphia Fusion approaching this one point. Sabiobi has that pulse bomb. He'd love to get behind Poco and put it to good use.
So now they have to go straight to the point, or not to the point, to this safe area. Shonak kills Winston. They get the Winston res off. But Libero again gets the pick. Even with the Transcendence, yeah, the Transcendence came out late when they're already down some people. But yeah, I'll give it to the guy. Whatever, it happens sometimes. Again, though, this matchup is so volatile. Dive versus dive, especially with Widow. Whoever kind of gets the first pick gets it. And the thing about Libero is that we saw him, and I can't see him right now, but he's really switching up his angles and where he's attacking from. So I would say EQO is on the back foot. This shit's so volatile. Like I wanted to be like, all right, there's all these tactics and cool things you can do, but it's just like Winston dove forward. Winston died because he dove forward ahead of his team. It was a small little thing like that. Zen got damaged, so he tried to ult to get to his team, but Widow doesn't give a fuck about any of that. Gets a headshot. They have to retreat. Very, very volatile. Anytime you fight force against force, like dead on, like when you go Widow versus Widow, the entire game can swing very quickly.
Questionable use of Transcendence from Boombox. Communication perhaps not as free flowing as he would have liked. Again, Still a chance here for the Fusion. I want to set up a little bit. So they've got rid of that Widowmaker. Now they have the Genji.
So
Chro.
Sabioli doing some sneaky stuff.
Wanted to see how NYXL responds to is when the aggression
And now they finally,
how do they
minute 20, EQO is on Genji. So they're finally sidestepping this battle, which I think is the right decision. I don't like fighting force on force. It's just,
protect?
it's too coin flippy.
It's going to be a very fast push that comes in as soon as they figure out where he is.
Dive is called on the Zen.
That might be a tough one for Boombox. Oh, Mana gets stuck, but Boombox is in deep trouble. He needs to back away, but Sabiobi was there to catch him.
Mano actually take a lot of damage there,
Mono doubles
but
back, gets himself the Mega. And yeah,
by surviving, they get pushed out again. And again, this is what I'm talking about, like, one pick. So important. That Zen, just by Zen dying and the Winston using his ult, they have to reset and get through all of this distance again. And for a Widow, perfect. Perfect. Like, this is what you want.
Towards your own support ults. Now, right now, with 47 seconds to go, you may never see that transcendence again for Philadelphia when you blew it there.
So Dive is going to start diving, right?
Boombox wants to farm it.
That, I will say right there was a very odd decision. I don't know what Libero saw, but he canceled his hook. Like, I think he would have had a better chance on the high ground.
So close by him. Fraggy with Primal Rage. Looks like he's found himself a Widowmaker here. Libero wasn't ready
But
for that. Drop
Libero still managed to live through the whole thing. Did a good job. EKO gets a pick, but Mano gets, you know, it cost them.
Gave up his life to get himself the Widowmaker kill. Libero can just stay safe for the time being until they're ready.
And now this Widow being alive is huge.
NYXL now. Robbie Libero just changing his location up, man. Varying his approach. It's going to be very hard to keep tabs on this man.
And the control of this space back here is actually what I want to focus on for this next part. Like, yeah, alright, Poco killed Mano.
Really, though, Mitch, this fight's gone on so long that Boombox has that transcendence back.
There's Transcendence.
That'll be a
Libero, I guarantee he's like, fuck, that ult came out of the worst time. He still gets away around the corner, but Winston's on him constantly. But you see Excelsior, they hold this back corner. And I can pull up the map, but I think everyone understands the back corner of this map, right? More or less, it is a little bit closed in space with a lot of corners, right? So you have the corners of this building, in here, and then you can break line of sight with the forklift. You can even break line of sight over here, and there's very little small little flaps right there. You can even use this corner. So it is a little bit topsy and turny, which is great for supports. So we're going to see New York. Look at this. Look at Zenalt on point. With who's on there? But it's Boombox, Neptuno, Poco's ulting there. I believe Fraggy's over here. So their entire team is pretty much here, and New York Excelsior's like, fuck it. Take the point. You can sit over there. We're gonna hold this corner where it's safer for our supports. Arc gets Mano up because one, they're holding this small area, and Mercy has a lot of space to hide here. She can ult like on top of this thing or fall down. She has the corners, but more importantly, all these guys can really damage the support or anyone attacking. So EQ gets taken out by the Zen and Tracer. Why? There's not many places for frickin' him to go. So you can see over here. Don't worry about it on point. But Jonak, as a boss always does, takes out Carpe. So now they're down both their flankers. And with Mano just getting rezzed, they're all going to bust out of this corner and take people out. More fighting in this corner. Again, they keep dominating this corner. Neptuno now is trying to contest Jonak. That's not a good idea, because Jonak's going to whoop your ass with Tracer support. And from there, they just take it. It looked really tough. It looked really bad for a second when Diva ult was coming. Right here was when it was looking really bad. They lost the Winston. The Widow essentially here is dead. She's not going to get anything. But it was by turtling up in this back corner, getting the res off on the tank. This allows all of the supports to be able to stick and move. And with the help of the Tracer, who excels at sticking and moving, they essentially take care of all the flankers. Once they're safe, they bust out on point, and they just take it out. I liked it.
knows he needs to stay on the point, but Fraggy's fallen
It was, I mean, it was really good. And that's a full hold. Now we're gonna see Excelsior attack. And we're gonna see what happens when you lose the Widow v Widow battle.
No Sombra from either team as well. This is usually a map where we see a ton of Sombra play.
NYXL haven't played it not once this season.
Yeah,
not once.
It's interesting.
So they're vying for position. They get the angle.
Maybe they don't want to rely on the Sombra here, knowing that the changes come through.
Well, it's that, and also, does that mean Jonak would have to play it? You can't play Sombra and Zen.
He fakes high, and then he hides. So right now, this is a pure mind game. By Libero shooting once from here and getting a hit, the other Widow's in the back foot. He's like, God damn it. He's going to be hiding from here. And right now, he's waiting for his team to call out where the Widow is at. Someone gets sights. We see Dive setting up here to take the fight in case the Widow pops up here or the team pops up there. Meko is going to go up high.
He was the man that, had so many
Or he didn't go high. And then that happens, and then that happens. At that point, dive. At this point, I don't care what happens. He took it. Have you already defined stick and move to the stream? No, I just assume everyone knows what I'm talking about. Essentially, it's staying mobile. You deal damage and you go somewhere else. Don't even worry about if you're hit or not. You shoot, and before you even it's in your it's a conscious decision in your mind saying I'm going to shoot here and immediately go somewhere else. This is what happens when you play Widow v Widow and you lose the Widow v Widow battle.
They don't have a Pharah in right now. Does Philadelphia realize this and change them?
It's time for Philadelphia to test their metal up against.
This is one thing I wish I could ask the pro players about. I know people are going to say whatever, but Fusion comes out, and they immediately switch.
So they're going to go with Widow and Junkrat here. So they're going to go a little bit heavier. Yep,
they go triple take Moira, and I don't know what they saw that triggered this. What would have happened if they saw Dive? Would they have stayed Dive? We can always guess at what they saw, but I really want to talk to the thought process behind the guys. So they saw something they didn't like, and they got off of Dive immediately. And they're like, all right, we're gonna do a slow comp. And now there is a big thing I want to talk about here, and this is something we always talk about on my stream. Well, not always, but we talk about high ground, right? I don't like it when the casters are like, "Oh, you had the high ground, Anakin. Of course you lost." We try to define the high ground. And I'll just go to face cam for this. So we always try to define the high ground. Why? One, it's good to define stuff. Know why things are that thing, because sometimes they're not that thing. And I know that makes no goddamn sense, but what is high ground? Why is it so advantageous? And I always sum it up by two things. One is an information advantage. Whatever's on the high ground, the low ground can't see. Right? I can see everything you're doing. I know what you're doing. I know what your comp is. And my information is actually hidden. So you can't see what I'm doing or what my composition is. Secondly, what high ground gives you is options. And so it means I can attack on the low ground. I can always fall off the high ground whenever. You can't jump up to the high ground whenever. Not only that, but if you do jump up to the high ground, it takes movement abilities outside of Genji and Hanzo, but whatever. So that's basically the big thing is I get this advantage of you can't see where my attacks are coming from, and I can attack from any angle at any time because you can't see my information. Now, when people are like, oh, but it's easier to headshot, that's a byproduct of high ground. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about any of that stuff. That just comes with high ground. It's not a huge deal. Some people actually have a harder time shooting straight down, and the models are different, so whatever. It's a wash point. Yeah, it's needed sometimes, but other than that, I don't give a damn. So why is it good to define this? Well, one of the ways to negate high ground is distance. So when you're really far away, such as Hollywood, when you're on the high ground, because the attackers come out from this corner and they turn around, they can see the whole high ground. You don't get the information advantage on either front. Everything's shown. It's no big deal. And maybe you do get options, but because they're running a Widow and other classes, that long-range advantage isn't there. Like, you can get headshot. So, the high ground in Hollywood, I would always call a fake high ground. At first. So, at first, with the high ground way over here, because everyone's coming from so far away, you don't want to be up there. In fact, this is the last place you want to be. But, as they get closer and closer and closer, all of a sudden, remember, distance is how they're overcoming this disadvantage? Now they're right next to it. All of a sudden, high ground has all those advantages again. So Hollywood first point is really good for Junkrat because of these very quick rotations to the high ground to get to them and to be able to get on people right away. And we're going to see exactly that on this point. By our abilities to define high ground, we can say when it's good and bad. And since everything will change in time, it's really freaking important. It's really important. So like high ground isn't useful here, but it is useful now. And people are like, nothing changed. Like, no, timing changed. Where the enemy was changed. It's a big concept to pick up on. Timing is everything. If you get good at timing, you'll be Grandmaster. Top opponent, no problem.
Like try it 1 or 2 times. They're gonna go
So this composition is just like jump on their face with everything. I like the Widow getting up here to try to clear the other high ground. And this is why I actually would have preferred dive. Is that you know Jonak's going to be on the high ground, but with this composition, you really can't. Contest it, except for the Widow. And Jonak's known for killing Widows. So it's actually what he does. He kind of puts the Widow on the low ground. Fusion's comp is designed just roll over people. And when something wants to roll you over, the best way to deal with that is by sidestepping, which is what Junkrat does. As everyone pushed in, the Junkrat rotated over, and all of a sudden, all those high ground options, or high ground advantages, he now has. And now, look how bad this looks. Junkrat on the high ground, getting pressured here, Jonak still pressuring from above. Shit spot for Fusion to be in. So, cool. And now they have distance again. So it's like, alright, back off the high ground. Don't be up there. It's exactly what Junkrat does, because you lose the high ground advantage. Right? You can see what the frick is going up here. The McCree can shoot you. They got a Diva now. So it's like, alright, I don't want to be up there where they can see me because they're going to take me out.
Kind of run into him. Have that protection from the Zarya, but EQ will go off of Roadhog, will go over to Diva here. So going to have that extra defense matrix.
Here we go. And here they use, with the Moira, she gets ult so fast. I like how New York Excelsior backs up because of the boxes here and here. It kind of breaks up this Moira ult, which can hit down these lanes, but if they set behind these boxes, they're good. So they're just bowling on point, especially with this Moira ult. Look, I mean, and they're all lined up pretty linear. Like, Moira can easily sidestep left or right, damage people, and heal her team at the same time. So they do get a bunch of, well, they get 2 picks, technically. This is good. In fact, they even deny Mercy her res. But Jonak, as always, he has his ult all the time because he's headshotting everyone. So he forces everyone on point. And they'll heal. Hog gets a good off ult. Good ult off. He does kill Fraggy, and essentially, for all intents and purposes, he kills the Zarya. I know people are like, but she has ult. Yeah, she's at less than 2 health. He even gets out of there with his life. And this is the bad part. It's actually better that he didn't kill the Zarya ult. Or didn't kill Zarya off. Because Zarya ults and dies immediately. Without Zarya or Reinhardt, the Diva was in the background here, keeping the team separated. So while this is all going on, you're like, oh, well, what's the rest of Fusion doing? Well, Fusion's dealing with the Diva. And then they demech her, so she ults. And now there's an ult here, and it divides the field into halves. This is Volskaya. Hold on. So perfectly, there's 2 people here. The Hog was here. the D.Va was here with the other team members there. The D.Va ult is what separates this into two completely different fights, and this is what allows them to take this out pretty safely. And you're going to see this come up afterwards, and it's just not going to work. Right, the battle's split into two. They cannot capitalize on this Zarya ult. In fact, she more or less wasted her ult. She didn't know it was going to roll it like this. D.Va gets killed, and at this point, they've retaken it. They've retaken the point. Switching from dive to triple tank was... Yeah, no, that was a very strange thing, because I like dive on this map, especially with New York Excelsior. So Junkrat's pretty weak against dive, as a Junkrat player myself. Like, he can deal with it, but man, is it tough sometimes. But more importantly, fucking Jonak. I don't want to say New York Excelsior is dependent on this man, but Jonak is... Whenever you see a fight going normally, and for some reason it just doesn't work out in your end, usually it's something really subtle that wins it. And so in Dota, what usually the biggest thing, like if you saw a fight and it was going even, and you're like, man, we still lost it, what the hell happened? I would always look at the 4 slot in Dota. So it's the greedy support. It's a support, but it does some damage, and you really don't notice it until it's too late, right? It's very subtle. That's what Zen is. That's how I feel about Zen. So when you see a game and you're like, all right, this is an even game, it's a wash, you can go either way, their freaking Zen's so good that actually that's not true. If a match seems even and you got Jonak, I would say you're on the receiving end, because you need to be one step ahead because of how much damage their supports are doing compared to your supports. So, we were just talking about it. He gets a volley off.
The gatekeeper in the most unlikely package. Sends a bunch of orbs over. That's a
pretty damn big earth shatter. That was a good earth shatter. It was also very so because Moira got killed and they don't have Mercy, I think this ult was really, really well done. It was a very smart ult. One, check out this bubble. Oh, no shield, no shield. Yeah, these are supports, no shields. Oh, they got no shields. That leaves them open for Reinhardt. Not only that, because of this pick, you think it'd be dumb to jump in. The thing is Moira's going to get there pretty quick, right? She's a quick support. Secondly, they're not expecting it. They just lost a guy. Why the hell would they attack? So this is kind of a thing. It's funny. It's funny how this works. So in Dota, it was always Invoker has a spell he can cast anywhere on the map, and it's like a target. It's like you have to like Kobe it, and you're trying to predict where someone's moving, and it takes 3 seconds to do it. So when you're in the dark, you can't really figure it out. But against good players, you're like, I know where you're going to be at. I know what the smart thing to do is here. Bam, I get up. So you're like, all right, what is the hardest thing to do? The hardest thing to do is to hit an inexperienced player. A new player, you have no grounds of what they're going to do. There is no logic. There is freaking nothing. It's just like, they could do anything. They could be almost dead and they'll dive you. And they'll just die. And you're like, that was the dumbest thing I ever saw. But I wouldn't have shot there. Like, that's not what it was done. So there's like this edge that new players have. And even in fighting, like we always say, there's 2 fists watch out for. An ignorant fist and a wild fist. Always watch out for it. Even if someone's unskilled, it's still weight at the end of an arm, and it can still knock someone out no matter what. So watch out. That was kind of like this version of it. They're down to support. Why would they attack? There's no reason why they attack. No one would expect this. So that's the perfect time to attack. Sometimes it's the dumbest thing to do that works. That's actually the smartest thing. It's this really weird, it's a really, really, really weird mind game. That you have to capitalize on. There's just, in fighting games, I don't know if anyone watched fighting game tournaments this weekend, because there was a really good one. In fact, I think I missed the final. I missed the top 8 for Street Fighter 5. God damn it. But there's players out there, and they're like, they have this randomness. that while it may be a player versus a hero versus hero matchup that they may have an advantage for, but player versus player, like this guy just for some reason this other player can't play against him. It's like his timings are weird. He just does odd things at odd times, and you can't predict it. He always gets an advantage. It's not saying just being random is good, but having a little bit of randomness really helps. And if we talk about StarCraft 2 or any RTS, whenever you're in a long series of games, we would always talk about cheese strats. And people are like, oh, cheese strats, like you got to throw them in just to keep people honest. Because if someone does the same thing over and over and over again, you can find easy ways to exploit that. In fact, that I would say that was Idra's like downfall way back in the day, was that he wouldn't cheese, and he was very vulnerable to it because he was always doing the very proper thing to do. But proper is not always correct, right? Sometimes improper is correct. So there is this mind game to it, and you kind of got to figure it out. So this was actually quite smart of an ult, not only tactically, because look, no shields, right? The only shield there is used. So he gets a 3 off. Deadeye over the top of it, and this cracks the point open. With 3 tank, you get on the point and you bully the shit out of people. This is a good save right here. D.Va saves them. And then there's the heal, and they're like, hey, let's just get our ult up. Sure, I'll take 65% of my ult when I just used it to win the point. You always had a hard time playing newer players online? Right! There's no logic to them. If you win me in Age of Empires too? Fuck yeah, I just Dark Rush you. Noob. So that was very well done, very smartly done by the Reinhardt. And now, Widow on point 2. Libero ults. This is just to buy his time, but you'll see the bigger importance after this. He doesn't get anything, and Libero actually dies, because this is what happens. I know everyone's like, Junkrat's ult's the greatest thing in the game. It's like, yeah, but you die. Whenever you use it for more than 3 seconds, you're dead. But this is okay, because he's going to switch to Widow. And as we've always said, or I will always say, Widow v Widow is extremely volatile. Yeah. So that one pick gives him all this space. That's cool. They're going to do fine just to turtle up back there and plan out their new strategy. So right there was a good stick and move. People were asking, what do you mean stick and move? You won't... You barely see the Widow, and he's not there at all. He's just like, fuck this, I'm gone. Right? He's not going to fight him there. Actually, I think he was there. But that's what I mean. Like, you fire, and then you're out of there. So, Widow dive, or Winston dive. So the Winston dove, got the Zen ult. So Fusion have to back out during the Zen ult just because you don't want to die. But Widow wins the Widow fight above. And that kind of opens up things. After that, they dive the back lines, and you can see just dive doing its thing. Right? With no fear of Widow, like Winston and Tracers, they're just going to jump on your supports.
They'll let him just run away. May go back to the spawn and switch. And if Tuno will go over to Mercy here, you want to have that Mercy to be able to pocket that Widowmaker. So be very careful though not to get caught in the sightlines of Libero.
Yeah, I mean, peeking out into this opening is always a bit scary. Again, such a defensive setup for NYXL in that last fight though. They're all sitting back so far, Carpe. 180 just for show, perhaps.
You hear the announcer go 180 just for show, perhaps. Again, if you miss your shot, you know you're not going to be able to make your next one. Turn around, look down. It minimizes the headbox.
Sitting back so far, Carpe. 180 just for show, perhaps. Trying to get himself on YouTube.
And we've talked about, you know, on offense here against the Widow on the defense.
So this is what you do. Dove on the first high ground. Cool. They just want to get space. This is just getting space. You'll see what you can get. If you can't get anything, whatever, it happens. If you don't, if you get something, that's great. So Winston actually dives even deeper. Why does he do that? Because he has ult. He can survive a little bit farther. But the cool thing here is that Philadelphia, the Fusion, they drop back completely. The Winston ulted and they all fell back. They didn't die. They didn't lose anything. And then Carpe is going to ult over the top, so their next engagement is well-informed. So I think that was a really good move there.
He's just trying to get a pick here. I mean, you need to cause some...
Look at the focus on this Widow.
Some kind of action.
I mean, you can already tell right there, looking through the wall, the Tracer wants to kill the Widow. So Jonak, of course, you don't duel Jonak. You get your ass whooped by him. He goes to kill the Widow. Guess what? Don't worry about it, Tracer. Jonak has that. At this point, it's just a full collapse. Dive, dive, dive. Yeah. And he's another headshot.
Backing up, trying to give him protection. They're not diving. They're waiting until they get the first pick here. NYXL waiting until the Philadelphia Fusion make.
So all of these, like a lot of these fights are coming down to. That's just the advantage of Widow. Fucking Jonak. So that's just the advantage of Widow sights.
20 seconds. In the Fusion, are they starting to run out of steam? Who would have thought a new age power source method of generating energy would actually run out? But
Right there. See, Zen, those were just two good shots by the enemy Zen. That wasn't like a charge shot.
It is now or never.
And I want to make note of something immediately. So everyone knows the high ground on this map's pretty important. We can see the Widow up here. Here's Arc. He's pocketing Libero up here. And also, we see Meko on the other high ground. This is quite important. As of right now, New York owns all of this. Time is low, so Fusion doesn't have the luxury of clearing high ground before going on point. They're just going to be forced on point.
It is now or never for Philadelphia.
So even though we see the D.Va dive, like D.Va just came down to help, they still have the high ground, right? No one's up there. No big deal.
As with the last few, the fraggy now needs to back up. He's taking too much damage.
The high ground advantage pays off. Libero gets a pick on a Zen that has ult. Very, very important pick. Also, look where the Widow's at. Widow, this is a silly place for you to be. You shouldn't be in the saloon, on the ground, surrounded by enemies. It's because New York controls the high ground. So where does she have to go? She just got dove on the low ground. That's what happens. So, while Zen ult does come out, it's too late. The D.Va got DMAC'd, the Widow got killed. Numbers advantage. Not only that, but yeah, there's Zen ult. Like, they have an ult advantage. They just have every advantage. And that was set up. That entire thing was set up by, one, the time constraint, and two, the high ground advantage that they had. Oh, there we go. What the hell's on my sock? It's a goddamn eye. Goddamn googly eyes. So, I just want to commentate on the first one. The first push, I want to say it's odd that Fusion swapped from Dive, but I think Dive would have done pretty well there. I think it would have been a better chance than what they did. So we see the second one, and we can look at the team. New York sticking with what they do, sticking with it well. Like, they got Dive, they do it. Not only that, but Fusion, they ran Carpe, so they're a little bit limited. Reinhardt, they're not mobile. Like, it's not very low mobility, but it's a majority of the team's low mobility and kind of vulnerable to Dive. Essentially, you would just ignore these guys and then just jump on who you want.
They see the Roadhog there. And oh, hello! It's the pain train straight out of the gates.
So, as I state all this, Fusion use a Moira, or with their Moira and the Lucio using speed boost, just kind of get in their face, which I really like. So remember dive, they are running dive. Dive needs to get to a position to dive to, right? If they want to dive here, they have to get to this point. Well, what New York, or what Fusion did here, is as dive was approaching this point, they attacked right here. So right before Fusion, or before New York Excelsior could get in position, they speed boosted with Moira ult right there just to get him, right? Essentially, just got him in the logistics phase where they're quite weak. And this is just all to build ult. Moira is at 75%, D.Va's at 65%. Like, this is just good all around.
Build up some ultimate charge already. Potentially maybe for some changes out of NYXL. This arc will go over to Lucio. You see Sabiel B though, still lurking. There's not much he can do though against those big bodies, right? It's not like many tiny HP heroes he can just one clip.
Carpe, again, with his front line being
So
so aggressive, he will have a bit of space.
Hook was missed.
Sabiel B manages to get himself in between the tanks and him.
They're repositioning.
Qo spots a little bit of action around the backside. He doesn't quite know what he's running.
There's a good shot by Hog.
Overextend. Sabiel B just got hammered there. The Tracer will be able to get
And so now, what they're doing right now is, this was the piece of information they're looking for. While they're poking and prodding and fishing for stuff, they're looking for Carpe. And Carpe was found. So what happens? We saw the Winston jump above. I believe actually the Tracer wraps around. Yeah, the Genji does. The Genji came through here, and because he's right there. Genji's right there. See, there he is. What are you doing there, Genji, you fool? So they dive the back lines a bit. As the ult comes out from Moira, again, attackers, we talked about this before, attackers can disengage when they want. That's the advantage of being an attacker. That's just the inherent advantage of attacking. You have to sit on the point because your defense, as an attacker, hey, screw off. You're using ults, I'm out. So and this is kind of what stirring the pot does. So while dive dives, remember, they're looking to create some type of commotion. They're looking to off-balance you somewhat. And that's what this did. So it required a reaction, the first dive. As the team reacted to it, dive will then look to see what's out of position and take advantage of that. In this case, look, everyone's in the house. Who gets killed? The guy that's separated from the herd. Right? And then dive gets called off and ults come off. Right? It's over at that point. So that's a really important point. In fact, it's so important. Camera scene. Little known fact, how to throw someone. And it's funny because Taichi has this principle where at first you're thinking they're just trying to be edgy. And they're like, oh, if you want to go left, go right. If you want to go right, go left. If you want to go up, go down. If you want to go down, go up. If you want to strike out weakness, feign strength. If you want strength, feign weakness. And you're like, yeah, I get it, Taichi. You're just trying to be fucking edgy. Yeah. But it's actually true. And when you realize how verbatim it is, like they're actually quite literal and figurative at the same time. And this is what dive seeks to do. Essentially, if you want to throw someone, you need to push them the other way. You need to off-balance them. You don't want to just... I made the explanation with this chair. Let's get this chair out. I made this explanation before, and I kind of told you guys about it, and you're like, yeah, whatever, Chro, you're a fucking dumbass. But I'm like, hey, let's actually talk about it. As you see all my Iron Palm stuff and whatnot. Like, with the chair is designed to hold stuff this way, right? And if you wanted to throw the chair, like, if I want to throw the chair that way, to my right, which way do I got? I gotta go to my left. And actually, if I want to throw it, I gotta push it this way, and then I throw it that way. This is actually how you throw people. Like, legitimately how judo throws people, how anyone throws people. You don't just try to, like, pick someone up and just toss them. You actually have to engage them. You have to get their balance somewhere, and wherever that balance is, you usually don't throw them that way, because that's already loaded. You actually want to throw them a different way. It depends on your positioning and how your hips are and all of that jazz. But the truth is with dive, what they did here is they just stirred the pot, and as everything went this way, they attacked this way, and you can actually do this multiple times. And essentially, you just keep on attacking the weak spots, and then you'll finally, once you get them going hard enough, you can throw them another way quite easily. So, it's actually quite verbatim. how you throw someone is actually how you want to do it with dive, is that as you push someone one way, you throw them the other way. So yeah. That's how you do that. But that's how you take advantage of dive.
Extremely coordinated. They were able to get a transcendence. They got a blade.
Very well done by New York.
Trying to keep everybody up for a little bit. Once it wears out, then that's when the blade plus transcendence comes through.
Yeah, I always wear the same shirt on purpose. That way, whenever you guys log on, you don't know what day it is. You're like, is this Chro? Is this a recording? Also, it's a comfy shirt, so piss off.
Inch by inch, the Fusion are losing that control over this series. New York really only have to get the payload down, mostly through this second stage, just outside the door. That's the start.
So,
my genius is finally recognized.
Thank you, Pixie Freckles, for the 2-month sub.
Instead of Tracer here for the Philadelphia Fusion. So this is a comp that actually
so yeah, that pick happens, whatever. Again, Widow vs. Widow is highly volatile.
High and final blow. So he's able to dart in there almost like a Tracer and finish these kills off and get out.
Big involvement we saw when he first entered the Overwatch League. He and Fraggy were back to back, you know, in a churning mess of enemies. They really like to get involved in those fights.
So here's the first dive. And Janus dived super deep, but the first fight is to get this high ground. And as D.Va's doing her jam up there, we actually see Winston ignore that and go for the weaker target with Boombox. And now, because they got that spot, because they took the first high ground, now they're securing the second high ground. And that's what this entire thing is. Once Janus sees that this Widow's pocketed, he is not concerned about killing her at all. It's purely just deal with this.
Oh dear, I guess I should have said the grappling hook now. It's going to get battered, but the healing provided by Neptuno. So all Janus is doing is zoning.
And EQO goes back and
yep, and there we go. That was just a good... I get what D.Va was trying to do, but that was just a good shot by Libero. And now they're down 2 people. Not only are they down 2 people, they're also down the high ground. So if Widow wants to go up there, she can very easily. In fact, I think that's where she got shot from right there, the enemy Widow. So at this point, it's like, all right, 4 people are dead. This is just a stagger. I'm not impressed. Like at this part, I've always said this. I don't care what happens. Excelsior got this. If they don't, then I would actually look at Fusion and what they did to turn around such a big disadvantage. So it was very like Excelsior did nothing fancy there. It was just really solid play. They're like, hey, let's take this high ground. What can we take from this high ground? Well, we can take... we can push the enemy off. At the same time, Winston can dive the back lines. They secured one high ground, pushed over the other high ground, got their Widow the high ground advantage. She got another pick, which opened up the entire map for him. It's very, like... When you actually look at it, it's very, very standard. I always call this damn map King's Row. Watch point. So here we go. This is game 5 for all the bananas. All of them. Every single banana out there. Yeah, just poking at first. And then we see that. Alright, so what happened there was quite subtle, but I don't think the Winston was meant to fall. When does Overwatch League start? Next week. Actually, this week. What is today? This week. Oh man, sorry, I forgot what week it was. So this Winston fell, I don't think he wanted to fall, but that's what really prompted the D.Va and everyone to target this Winston down. Winston fell, so D.Va went in to try to help him, and actually D.Va gets demeched because of that. Winston's low health, so he's vulnerable to dive right now. He's trying to get healed, but those two tanks, or the one tank getting killed, really puts them in a bad spot. As they retreated, everyone retreated to the right spot except for the Zenyatta, who is going to die right there. Jonak just retreated. Basically, all of New York Excelsior kind of went this way, and Jonak, as he retreated, went this way. It's dive, right? Dive is going to look for these one-offs and kill them. It's just what they do. So now that's 2 people dead into a third, and they're going to take this first point just from that.
How much through this series have they really coordinated these dives with Libero on the Genji? They haven't played it that much. They've been going to a lot of other different comps. So you know Philly very strong with that dive composition. They're going to try and put a lot of pressure on Jonak in the back. He's been putting down a ton of damage so far in this series. Arc is going to be playing Ana here, so you'll probably see him stay on Ana here.
So they push up just to give them some shit, make them take damage, build ult, you know, yada 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 for taking any space, right? That's the whole goal of Overwatch. If people have to traverse space, make them pay for it.
That's right. Definitely not the same. Carpe has a pulse bomb, and Meko may have exhausted most of his defense matrix. Carpe's looking to do a bit of a deep dive.
And we see them trying to dive to get support ults out, which they do. She doesn't get the stick, but support ult still comes out. But let's actually start a little bit before this. Sorry, sometimes I skip my notes. So the big point on this one is the high ground, right? Above spaceship. It really gives players access to the back lines without being seen. So while most maps I should say, flanks left and right, on Welch Point Gibraltar this point, it's up and down. The flank is actually above. So we see this fight above, and Winston's really struggling here. He tried his damnedest to keep it for his team. He dropped back. While he does get healed, Libero and Janak, they do their thing, and they get the kill off. And this kind of tilts the favor. Now everyone wants to dive, because they're down a person. And this actually gets, while that pick would have been nice, they wanted to dive anyways because of the pick. And Zenalt's just going to really further enforce this idea.
Regardless, it's still used. It looks like NYXL are actually looking to use that though in a combat sense, but EQO, the Dragonblade has been drawn.
And this whole entire exchange is kind of like a seesaw with dueling ults. So Zen's ult was forced out. Without Zen ult, they can't survive a Genji Blade, so they Genji Blade. But Genji forces the Winston ult out because he thought he could kill him. And now the other ults come out. And because it's not always this rule, but usually whoever ults later, if you survive it, obviously it's better, right? That's just kind of how it works. And that's exactly what happened. Because New York ulted first, and Fusion waited to use their ult, specifically their Zen ult, they're going to take advantage of the 5 seconds at the end of all the chain of ults to win the fight. And now it looks like they're going to take this, right? It really looks like they're going to take it. But as always, there's a last second defense with D.Va. And there is one thing we're going to see, and it is going to be frickin' Jonak again. So, Jonak and company are here, I believe. And while Genji is getting good kills, don't get me wrong, we're going to see this a lot, where the supports for New York Excelsior are going to chill back here. And they're going to use this lane to kind of set up a kill lane. And it's going to get a lot of shots off. So this was pretty good. Just the stall here. The Genji ult is going to come out over the top. Genji almost had, I should say, EQO almost had a really good kill here. I think we can see what he's going to try to do. He gets on these boxes, and he double jumps up here, and he climbs the wall, and he essentially times it so whoever's coming through, he's going to kill right away. See, there's the double jump. He almost gets Libero. He was very close, and if he actually got that fight, or if he actually got that kill, I think this fight would have been over. It was very close. So yeah, you can see the supports just chilling in there. I don't know if this is always a good idea, but this is what they're doing. I guess if you go through that door, you're going to get hit with Jonak, right? He's going to be headshotting whoever the fuck peeks in. So Dragonblade comes out. And there's where we see Jonak get the kill. So this is actually what I was talking about. Anyone in this lane, Jonak's going to headshot. Constantly. He gets the Tracer. I think we can see that. So there's Carpe. He's in the kill zone. Just this straight line. Poco is next. Poco took a lot of damage from Jonak, let alone the Dragonblade. And from there, that's kind of what got it. Jonak also kills the other. Zen. Like, the guy's doing damn good stuff. Good move by EQO. Oh, yeah, no. If EQO killed that Genji, this fight would have been completely different. Brain, notice your donation. I did.
He's standing there over Boombox's dead body. COB takes him out as well. Jonak gonna get close to a Transcendence, so you'll have that Transcendence to combat the Dragonblade that comes in from each.
But yeah, Jonak. You'll be seeing this kill lane a couple times.
It's a good spot for Dragonblade as well.
So, here's where point 2 on Welchport Gibraltar really gets tough. Because there's 4 exits. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really, really hard to get through one of them. Especially if there's a Widow. I know everyone in the stream has probably dealt with a really good Widow on this point, and it just sucks. But being against a good team that can dive is really tough, because we'll see exactly what happened over here. So, as dive against dive, right? Dive wants to get up here, but as soon as that happens, the defensive dive, guess what? These guys use their abilities. Anyone up here already didn't. So they're going to use their abilities, and they're going to jump on whoever the hell they want. And that's exactly what happens here. Oh, there's a Zen back here. Let's dive on him. And that's what they do. And that gets a kill, and that essentially sets up this defense. This is going to happen a couple times. We're going to see Dive sit up there, and as Dive goes to engage him, Dive just doesn't deal with it. I feel so bad for Zenyatta's in Overwatch League. So while everything's happening and Jonek's getting more kills against Tracers, the harassment in the backlines by Dive is... That was a good shot. That was just a good shot. The supports are constantly vulnerable to Dive because how much distance Dive can get off of the top of this high ground. When you're on top of Shuttle, you can get anywhere on the map for point 2. So here it is. Look. It's the same damn thing. This is the 3rd time in a row they did this. They sat on the high ground with Dive. Dive engages them. Dive dives the backlines because they can easily reach it. I know they're like, oh, Jonak got that kill. No, that was Dive setting that up. Don't worry that Jonak actually got the final blow. I like that little taser. It's like, yeah, fuck you, buddy. I'm still here. So now, here's the kicker. Look, they put even more people up here. The fucking Zenyatta's up here. Like the guy that can't do anything. He's on top of the damn shuttle. And you saw, just as essentially they try to get out of here, look, the Winston, because they're at such a disadvantage, they're trying to get up here and up here to dive on the shuttle over here, right? Because Dive actually can't reach the shuttle from the doorway itself. As the tanks push up to this, and I know this is such a minor detail, because they have to walk these 5 steps on both sides, that leaves the back open, right? The tanks are busy right now trying to get in position. Again, it's a logistic-based attack. Tracer gets a kill in the back. Right? Look, you saw D.Va had to go back there. And there's a cheeky Tracer trying to get a ninja cap, if you will. So now they're not on the high ground, but they lose a D.Va. I mean, they don't lose a D.Va, but getting an ult out, pretty good. And as they're taking all this damage and everything's getting pushed up, Neptuno ults so they can actually stay here, right? You don't want to give up the ground that you've traversed, right? Let's say someone died right here. Let's say Carpe died, and they're like, ah, shit. Now we have to go back to these damn doors again and traverse that distance. They're using the support ults to keep on pushing forward because it takes so much damn time if you don't.
Fraggie's just trying to jump in. He's just sitting around the corner from Sabiolby right now. You can see him there. They're getting ready for this dive.
They're waiting out NYXL's Valkyrie. So they got them to burn Valkyrie. You still know Transcendence is here.
As soon as Arcs and Neptuno, they both ulted, they wear out, dive is called again. And so they try to dive the backlines. Mono tried to dive, he had to use his ult. Can't get anything. So now this is when you're playing dive and one team dives and they can't get anything, even if they burn ults, you are now on the front foot. They're on the back foot. They have the back out. They have a lot of essentially ground to make up. So when someone retreats, dive wants to get on them. The Winston dove in to try to get something, and he actually got this. I don't know if it was a good move or it was greedy, but he could have ulted, but he doesn't. He actually makes it out. That was very close. Sabiolby misses the pulse bomb, which would have been huge. We see Jonak ult. Nothing was gained, so now we're going to see Boombox ult. And that Sabiolby kill. So we'll see it right here. It's not really Sabiolby, but the Genji just didn't get healed fast enough. In fact, I think the Zenyatta ult was meant to save the Genji, but it happened too quick. So I mean, let's look at EQO's health. It's like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. He had like 2 seconds, 3 seconds to save him. And you're going to see this comes out a little bit too late because EQO has ult. That would have been a great time to have Dragonblade. Since he died there, look, he's getting rezzed. But as everyone backs up from Zen ult, that's when you want the Dragonblade to happen. What actually happens is everyone's reset up now. See, look, it's this. Everyone's here, and New York is set up here, and now he's going to be Dragonblading. It's a little bit less of an optimal situation. Actually happened the other way. Sorry. It was still a decent Dragonblade, but now this comes out. He does it. I'm not going to say it was the best spot to use it. He had to use it because there's 10 seconds left, but he does get a good kills off of it. So now we see this, that, you know, attempting to get this point. It's kind of hard what's happening here. Again, Carpe, headshotted by Jonak. Where's Jonak? Jonak's actually on this side now, and this is the kill line. It's the same kill lane that he's doing before. He's on the other side, though. And so I would just say, if you're ever playing against a good Zen, I would avoid this back line. I would actually try to attack this way or this way. I would not stay on this plane.
Fraggy being healed up as we speak, and Carpe down. Jonak again. He may have just dashed the hopes of the entirety of the fusion right now with those one shots. Self-destructing.
And the big saving grace by this point is this Moira. You see that both Genji and Tracer tried to deal with this boombox on Moira. And she gets ult. And you're like, wait a second. When did that happen? And it's a good observation. Good thing you guys figured that out. Because he was on Zen, and he's like, I gotta get the point quick. Let's change to Moira. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna get ult in like 15, 20 seconds. So while this all is fighting, like, I think all this posturing is good, all the attacks here are good. There's not really anything really to talk about. It's just kind of doing dive stuff. It's good to know that Zenyatta has his kill lane, but it's this Moira that's at... Okay, she's at 60% now. And now 70%. See it, 77. So it's going a little bit slower, and then bam, up to 90. And then she ults. And this is the ult that actually really secures it. It saves the Mercy there, really damages everyone there. I mean, she's getting healed and damaged every second here. I don't think if it was for that Moira, they would have definitely lost this point. And the fact that she gains ult in, like... Hold on. I actually want to time this. Okay. We're at 150.26. When did he swap? Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, right there. Let's talk about this. 150.10. When did he actually... So I guess right here he gets it. So he did it in 40 seconds. At 149.30. And even less than that, like, he had to get to battle. So, like, I'd say right about here is when he's getting percentage, so he's doing something. So I'd actually shave, like, another 10 seconds off of that. I'll say at 49.40 is when he starts getting charge. Yeah, 10 seconds in, he's at 46%. Another 10 seconds, 75%. Yeah, I mean, he's getting... Shit. I can't believe that. Yeah, and there it is. It's like a 30-second ult. I want to say that is what won it for him. I don't let, and he's like, look at how good EQO did. It's like, yeah, he did open that up with the Dragonblade on the supports, but man, Boombox, again, supports don't get the loving they need.
Oh, by the way, then off the respawn as Jonak takes out Carpe, EQO kills Jonak again just as he gets...
See, this guy, and so this is my problem with the Western scene in Overwatch and just anything in general. The concept of carry and not carry, like, just that shouldn't be a concept. Just throw that out. If you ever want to play Overwatch, throw that fucking out. Don't worry about being carried or carrying people or yada yada yada. The whole concept is fucking dumb. But they just look in the top right. That's my left, but that's the top right for you guys. They just look up there and they're like, who got killed? Who got their ult? They don't even look at who got their ult fast, because that would be that representative of the damage they did. They should have noticed Boombox. They're like, wait, why is there a Moira here? Why does she have ult? He was Zen 30 seconds ago. The supports won that point. Yeah, don't get me wrong, the DPSers and the tanks got to do some cool stuff, but fucking hey, like, the supports won that. The fact that Neptuno never got killed, the fact that Moira never got killed, and they were doing healing the entire time, and damage boosting and all that jazz, that's what really matters. Especially with their lineup with D.Va, Genji, and Tracer. Like, those are kind of nimble targets. The fact that you have Moira always doing consistent damage or Mercy damage boosting, so take down these low HP targets even faster, that's really, really underrepresented. It's quite underrepresented. So don't always look who's killing who and who's always look at the kill feed. Overwatch is a little bit of a complicated. I don't even want to say it's complicated. Just don't look at the obvious and be like, "Oh, that did it." It's like there's usually a lot of subtle shit that goes on that actually led up to it. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, DPSers have the easiest job in the game. Unless they do something absolutely mind-blowing, I don't give a fuck. Because the damager, the damage guys, they're getting healed and they're getting shielded. They don't have to worry about health or getting shot. So it's basically what a DPS need to do in their ideal situation is essentially playing a game against in a training simulator, right? Where there's just the bots standing there shooting. That's like the ideal situation for a DPS player, where they don't have to do much. They just shoot at people, and they don't have to worry about getting shot back or anything. So that's if your team's doing a really good job. That's what's happening. DPS players, while they are super important, at the same time, their job is the easiest in the game. Yeah. Fuck you, DPS players, especially you goddamn junkrats. Fucking junkrats.
Looks like the Fusion got the blessing they were looking for. Carpe, that one's been thrown over the edge, my friend. You won't get the pick on Mano. Mano now will try and go
so
some trouble in the back line. It's Libero's turn to step up and draw the sword.
Oh my god, what amazing Genji! He killed 2 supports with an ult that's fucking amazing. Look at that.
So you get the blade out there. No Arc getting close to Valkyrie yet again. No support ult here for Philadelphia. So
and as I do mock the announcer for not like saying how good Libero is for doing that, it actually is a good thing for Libero because he wasted 30 seconds of their already dwindling time because they have to wait for respawns and get all that jazz done. This is the actual hero part. So this is standard dive, right? Hey guys, what are we gonna dive? There's supports. It looked like it was gonna not work, but Sabiobli, he gets the 2 supports, and that really secures this one. Because they were so low on time,
my genius is finally recognized.
Those 2 picks were really important. X1 Dudex with the tier 1 sub for 4 months in a row. Thank you, sir.
To take this coveted stage 2 title.
Really smart.
So Sabiobli essentially got that point. Whenever you can kill 2, like I don't want to say it's purely Sabiobli on this one. So again, it's just standard dive. I don't like talking about it too much because it's just fucking dive. Look, hey, there's a support. Guess what? Dive on him. Look, the Winston's already on him. The Tracer's on him. They do a decent job to save their Zen. If it wasn't for that, this would have been a completely different game. That, and then the Mercy dies. Everyone's called back. And so since everyone's called back, essentially dive, like they were pushed up to this point, and maybe even up to this point by the staircase, but because their back lines got dove, they all jumped back here, and all of a sudden they had lost all that ground, and now they're back here. Dive can suddenly take all of your space away. In both regards of like, they can just jump on you, and so all that space is gone, but they can essentially kill your back lines so that you have to go back to where your back lines were, and you lose all that space. Yeah. I know Jane. I don't know Jane. Should I know her? Is she cute? I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. Listen to the rest of the beats! before I left, yeah, it was Trout Yo says, do you think it would have been smarter to not push the cart as far so it's easier to touch in overtime? No. So why I say that is because it's just kind of how things happen, because the defense, especially with dive, they're going to wait until you're at essentially a bad spot for them to attack. So if you just didn't push the cart and you waited until overtime, like, yeah, maybe something would have happened, but they would have waited into the same spot that you were at and attacked again, and it would have just happened again. That's just how dive works. I know there's that whole concept. I hate overtime, and I think you can probably abuse it a little bit, but it's quite a coin flip, right? If you die, well, you got the longer respawn. So, it's a tough decision. I wouldn't. I would just push the cart and take a fight and see what happens. And if you do it fast enough, then maybe you can get a second fight out. Because maybe if that last fight went differently, maybe they could have touched the cart and something would have happened. But it didn't in that case. It's just, it's a little bit too risky. Too bit, yeah. I wouldn't wait till overtime. I would not waste the 30 seconds like that. 30 seconds is a lot of time in this game. God damn it. Look, there we go.
Normally see from NYXL.
Philadelphia.
And here we go. This is it, boys.
Can they pressure Libero? Can they pressure Jonak? Force mistakes out of New York.
Libero on Widow.
Widowmaker already at large, and Libero taking half of Fraggy's HP on the first.
Also, I'll turn this up. I just want to hear you guys think about this caster's concept.
And he doesn't. He's shooting. He's maybe thinking there's like a Widowmaker mine here coming through the top. Obviously, it's not happening.
I don't think he was shooting for a Widowmaker mine. I think he just turned and shot because he thought someone was going to be there.
Have the great insight that we all know that there's no Widowmaker on the other side, so just gonna have
because Tracers like to hide there. That's why.
Careful though, he doesn't get dived.
No attempt for the Fusion to really try and stop this payload yet. They're setting up, split between the server room and the left-hand side of that hook turn. Fraggy low again, Orb of Harmony.
So this is kind of what happens, and this is, you should kind of get used to this on this map, even with dive or not dive. I think this is going to become a lot bigger of a thing on the ladder. In professional play, everyone holds server room. They'll lash out from there, but they're going to go back to it. So Libero is definitely looking for some ways to attack and get angles on this server room.
You are cutting off Libero though from anything he can get done though.
So this whole engagement, at least for New York, is about putting enough pressure so that Widow can get space to get a kill. Like that. And then they have to do the opposite. So EQO gets Dragonbladed even after the pick, but that Winston got res, so it doesn't really matter.
He uses the nano boost on EQO so he can get that dash straight through
so they just needed to create space after the Winston died. They were afraid of a dive, which is a quite real thing to be afraid of. And they nano boosted to get, also wanted to get Genji's ult faster, but yeah. And then here comes the dive on server room. This is a this is a thing. This happened. The dive happened and Zen ulted, which was smart, right? Everyone's in a closed, confined area. If you have Zen ult going, no one should die on your team. But what happened was, let's actually step back. So before any of this happened, Widow ulted. So that's how they go. Guys, there's two supports in a tank in here. Let's kill them. So that's why they died. So this is the initial part that set up the entire attack. The second part of this attack is Mercy ulting, because believe it or not, there's actually a high ceiling in the server room. You can actually get up here pretty high, higher than you would think. And with the Mercy healing in a closed-in area, she's bouncing heals everywhere. So everyone's going to get healed. So New York can survive this pretty easily. Fusion has to use their ult because they already used their other support ult. They have to use Zen's support to survive through this. And not only does the Pulse Bomb really help, but just the Mercy over the top. Because look, Mercy's still healing right now. Mercy ult lasts for so long, it can go before Zen ult, last through Zen ult, and still be healing after Zen ult, which is exactly what has happened. So as Mercy ult ends, then the Zen ult came in just to secure this, and take this point. It was just to secure the point, in which I don't really care. If you overlap support ults a little bit, that's cool, especially if it's to get a point, no big deal. There's always the chance to be greedy, but I would rather not be greedy and just take the point.
On the way to their hoped victory.
You would think though Philly should be able to win this next fight though. Dragonblade.
Here comes, they're just harassing the supports, no big deal. Just to piss them off. But again, they essentially traded dives, and Fusion's dive got a lot more. That was a good body block.
Now you have a nano blade for the next fight. Pretty big to hold on to some of those ultimates there. They get that one just done with Fraggy's Primal Rage. And you imagine they're going to play extremely
the good news here
they expect that. They Primal Rage.
Is actually door's still open. They didn't push it through.
You imagine they're going to play extremely close, and NYXL, they expect that. They switch off of Widowmaker, they go over to Genji, they're going to dive up on the high ground.
It's understated how nice that is to have that door open. So we see... Did he dash? Did he Indiana Jones that? Hold on. He did! That son of a bitch Indiana Jones did. I missed this the first time. So Fusion's doing the same thing New York did to them. They're sitting on here, and as dive comes in, if dive tries to pressure up here, they're just going to dive the back lines. But they one-up them, and look at this Indiana fucking Jones move. He's going to dash here, ult, drop down, dash through the door as it's closing, and get a kill. Look at this! There's no way you can make it through that! Don't do it, Indy! And he dashed through that shit. Did he go through? Yeah, he made it through! Oh, what a good play. He dashed through the door as it was closing at the last second.
The 1-2 punch, and EQO finishes in style. All the trimmings. Lovely Dragonblade there. Close the fight.
And another good thing about running Ana here for the Philadelphia Fusion is
he dashed through a closing door. What a freaking move! That madman! The fuck does that?
For NYXL, the two doorways on the top and then the two doorways on the bottom. You can land big biotic grenades that deny a ton of healing on the way.
So Manos survives the pulse.
Dive defense.
And they're just doing the same thing that got done to them. They're putting pressure at the door with Tracer as dive sits on top. Depending on how New York commits to their attack, then they'll start jumping on them.
For a while here, it has to be a bit of a...
But one thing we should note is, while all these ults are coming out, that's cool and all, but they're using ults, and New York is not using them. So, ult. They got 5 ults to the 1. They got 2 with Zen. So, this is how dive kind of gets past the problem of point 2. Mono jumps up on top, and as he gets up there, he's going to ult, which essentially allows him to keep diving, in which before he could die. So now he's trying to secure that space and allow his team to get to this point easily. And now to keep this space, that's why the Zen ult, even if Zen gets, even if New York doesn't get any kills here, the fact that they're securing this space is more important than anything else, because you don't want to go through those doors again.
The peel comes in from, I believe, Fraggy and ends up waking him up, and then he uses the Primal Rage to stay alive, which in turn forces out Transcendence from both teams. So you also have no Valkyrie here.
So as they back up, and here's kind of, it's funny, Fusion and Excelsior, they're using the exact same strategies, except Fusion has an Ana, and I don't know if I agree with this, but Ana nano boosts the Zen, so he doesn't die. And they do get a kill. That's great. And the Tracer's forced out. But after all this happens, Genji kind of goes, "Hey, what's up, Zen? How you guys doing here?" And it gets everyone killed. I don't know why they were holding... Like, I get why you want to hold this point, or this corner. It is really tough to dive, but with an Ana... I...
no Valkyrie here for NYXL, so you will have this nano boost. You're going to give it on a boombox to just keep him alive.
It seems good, but the thing is they have to deploy so many resources back here, because... Let's just look at them. These two are definitely in this room, and there's the Diva. What did New York Excelsior had to commit? Well, they committed the Winston. They did commit the Tracer, kind of. We'll give it a half, because she just recalled out. And that's it. Right? No one's thinking... Like, we were looking at the situation very under a microscope. The problem is, oh yeah, there's 4 other heroes. Oh, and they're against 3 other heroes that aren't getting healed and don't really have defensive abilities? Like, yeah, there's Winston Bubble, but they're just gonna crash right through that. And so that's kind of the story we're missing. While this whole interaction happens in this room, and that's cool, one of the tanks is dead. Ikkyo gets his blade, but he dies. And now, you look at this fight, and you're like, alright, it's 4v4, but actually Fusion has really shitty positioning. Because 3 other people are in here, in a choke point, that they have to get out of to secure this point. Right? They're on defense. It's even shittier when you consider that there's going to be a Genji in here fucking up your room. And at this point, it's kind of a stagger. It's like, alright, as people come to get to the point, Excelsior have such a huge advantage that they're just going to kill everyone. That was a good stick, don't get me wrong. But at this point, it's just overwhelming. And they get the point.
50 meters stands between them and stage 2 victory. 3 minutes left on the clock.
Oh, and they have a great set of ultimates here. They're going to have Transcendence and Valkyrie. Libero will switch off of Genji. Will go to Widowmaker. All it takes is one pick. You're going to have Carpe play Widowmaker. You're not going to have a Tracer because EQO has that.
You see Tracer doing Tracer things. Sneaky little bastards.
Paved the way to victory with a well-placed pulse bomb, particularly in the direction of those supports.
Now, Libero back on Widow. And it should be very, very important. We need to note. Hold on, we'll get a nice look at this. Alright, perfect. I don't have to highlight this, but I'm gonna highlight this. Here is the capture point. Do I have... That's Hollywood. I always back a map. We need watch point Gibraltar. So this is kind of a game of angles right now. Because they didn't get it very far, it's right here. And Libero is playing Widow. The bad thing is look at this sightline. Like, Widow can essentially keep right here contested. With, let me make it a different color. Right here contested. God damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. There we go. Right. Everyone has to get on this point, and Widow can shoot them. Now, the defense, Fusion, has ran a counter Widow. Where will she stand to actually get an angle on the enemy Widow? There's very little place for her to be at. I mean, even up here, yeah, she can kind of get an angle like this. But the Widow could stand right here and still clear the point, right? She could actually take this angle, which is just fine and dandy, right? It's still going to get... It's still going to cover the point. Essentially, because of where they pushed it to and they didn't push it around the corner, if this cart was here, completely different story. This would be a completely different ballgame. But the slight angle adjustment here, because it didn't get around the corner, is huge. And it gives Libero, the attacking Widow, every advantage ever. Like, this was like handed Libero on a silver platter. So as we see it, so what this Tracer does is she keeps the backlines busy, and we'll see 2 supports and a Widow all back here. So again, 3 people, 1 person. So you're not there, you're not there, you're not there. So now we have a 2v5 on the point. And more importantly, Libero's there, and that's a scary advantage. We see one. Which one? Who's it? Diva Bomb. Everyone hides from that. No big deal. Libero kills her while she's getting remeked. That's a big thing. But now look at this. Remember all the supports, and here's the thing. This was accidental. But there is something extremely good about this, and that is, it is exactly in the sight lines of that hallway and this hallway. So now the supports really have to stay back, or at least the Mercy does. It just takes out more ways for people to hide from this. And, look, separates the battle. It legitimately draws the sight line that the Widow has an advantage on. So, everyone's... First of all, the Winston gets killed because he was the only one past here, and he didn't want to die to the ult, so he had to be over here, which meant everything could attack him. And now everyone's forced on point. Zen ult makes sure that everyone on point lives, and now everyone has to deal with Libero, who's constantly shooting in. Yeah, here's, who's the other guy? Carpe? Yeah, but he can't get a sight line on the Widow, so... he's going to be a pain in the ass the entire time. Carpe has to get on point just because there's no one else on point. Gets smacked away, and that's it. Also, I believe a chair comes flying across the stage and hits the... Yeah, look at that. Yeah, go chair! Oh, shit. Play the game. MVP. Good job, chair. The chair, flanked from here. Fusion, still stuck in here because they lost. Have no way to get out. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it was a good move all around here. Tracer keeps everyone back. Diva unknowingly separates the battle into 2. The 2 tanks that are on the point die because they're alone. They're all alone. Fight on point, nothing happens because, well... Oh, Poco gets shot in the head again. This uncontested Widow, Libero, is essentially the unsung hero of this point right here. Yeah, because with the Widow, look where Genji had to stay at, and he's just going to get clobbered there. Wouldn't the Fusion's Widow also have an advantage when having lost line of sight of the cart? Yes, you could say that. But here's the problem. Jonak right here can push the cart into the victory circle. Not only that, if a shield... So if Winston came up here and just shielded right here, Widow can't get anything. Right? It would take a lot more for a Winston to jump over here and put a bubble here so the Libero can't get anything. Because they're going to get dove. Right? If a Winston was here, everyone would just attack him and kill him. And that's kind of what exactly happens. We'll see right here. The Winston's forced forward because of the Diva Bomb. And you'll see him just jump forward and watch him just get destroyed. He just gets fucking wrecked. That was 400 hit points gone in like a second. Yeah. The whole thing is that the line of sight's on the attacker side because the cart doesn't have to go past this point. Legitimately, like, if the cart had to go here, completely different point. It reminds me in football when, like, the special teams does stuff, and they really, like, they take the ball to, like, the 50-yard line, and it just sets up the offense in such a nice way. Now, I know the same people that have played defense played offense, but their superb defense, essentially their point 2 defense is what gave them this victory. It really did. Like, it really helped. because it would have been a completely different game. Yeah, so that's overall what happened. I mean, there's some cool stuff that kind of happened on both sides. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any other questions or what happened where, but overall, the finals weren't bad. Like New York Excelsior, as soon as they lost to, and I want to say Fusion played really well, but also Excelsior on Route 66 kind of made some dumb choices. I don't want to say Fusion won that, like off of their skill. I mean, they definitely did, but Excelsior made some really shitty calls by sticking to that comp for way too long. That 0.2 comp was bad. They ran the Widow too long. They ran the Junkrat. They ran the Junkrat and Hog, only one extra push, but that still ate about a minute off the clock, and then sticking on the Widow ate another minute. But the first game, which was... I got a video right here. Oh, that was the first one. Route 66. So yeah, so that was that's how that one was. Lijiang, it wasn't bad. I think Fusion played it well. Excelsior did some weird stuff where they really pushed out with they had a narrow type corridor type comp, and then they pushed out into the yard and kind of lost it all. Or is that the one they won?
But they were running Zarya there, so now
Yeah, that's actually the one they won. Never mind, they actually won that one. Sorry. I just remember it was a really bad move, but they still pulled it off. It was actually really close. I think Lijiang was equal. I mean, that was a good one. So that Fusion definitely won that one. Volskaya, holy crap. Excelsior were pissed. They came back, they crushed them. They crushed them. They crushed them. Excelsior had issues wherever dive was not ran. That should be what's noted. I think that's what really to take away from this. Excelsior did okay in Lijiang when running not dive. Okay. They messed some things up, but they did okay. Fusion did a little bit better, and they won because of it. Route 66, they did not dive for too long, and that's what cost them the round, or the map. Volskaya, they did dive with Widow perfect, and they shut them down. They shut Fusion down heavily. They did the same thing on Hollywood. Now, they did run the Junkrat. Let me double check so I'm not talking out of my ass, which I sometimes do. There's the Volskaya one. Okay, so they did run the Junkrat Roadhog comp. And that worked pretty well on point 1. I think they did that very well. They actually got caught out. That was right. That was the Reinhardt move. The Reinhardt move that like you wouldn't have expected actually got on that point. So, actually their non-dive comp worked pretty well there. But they definitely pulled out dive for the rest of the point 2, and they did very well. On their attacking, they did non-dive Widow, or dive comp Widow. Again, very well done. And then, watch point Gibraltar, they did dive the entire time. And they just did very well. Dive comp is their strong suit. It looks like when they go non-dive, essentially like a Junkrat type comp, they're not bad at it by any means. But they did get caught off guard a couple times. But I say that NYXL also went through their defense. Oh yeah. That's a good thing to take away too. Hollywood, they stuck them on point 2, and more importantly, they wasted like 3 minutes on point 1. Watch point Gibraltar, they almost stumped them on point 2, and that's what gave them a really good defense on point 3, which we went over pretty in detail. And their Volskaya, yeah, they held them to point 1. On Volskaya, like I think out of the 2 CP maps, I think Volskaya is the easiest one to take. Either that or Horizon Lunar. Hanamura can be a bitch. That one can be really bad. Anubis can be kind of tough because it's tight corridors. Actually, Anubis is actually a tough one to full hold on. It rarely happens. But Volskaya, you actually don't see it that much. I think just Libero on Widow is incredibly strong. Whenever he could play Widow, they won. They had a they lost on Hollywood. That's right. But Route 66. But Route 66.2 is crappy for Widow if you get jammed into the choke points. If you actually lose all your ground and you get pushed up right to the wall, because they had an Orisa and they couldn't really push up with her. It wasn't a very mobile tank. Like even Reinhardt would have been better at that point because they at least could have pushed forward and gave the Widow more sightlines as you were pushing forward. But yeah, no, New York was damn good defense. That won the 3 maps, I would say. Clearly, it won the 3 maps. Very rarely do you get 0.1 Sky defenses, 0.2 Hollywood defenses, and it was a very soon 0.3 Watch Point Gibraltar defense. You usually don't get those. They actually hit some pretty obscure defenses. When I think about Doomfist, can you win a game single-handedly? Anyone can win the game single-handedly. Sometimes people pop off and they just win. And sometimes getting a pick will win it for the team. If Doomfist gets a pick, I mean, he's a pick-type hero, right? If he gets one punch, he kills the support, that can win the point. I want to see some reviews of Excelsior vs. Outlaws on those 9 dive maps. Leisure Control Center, King's Row. Yeah, next stream will be tomorrow. But non-dive stuff, I don't want to say Excelsior's bad at it, and they're still good at it. But dive seems to be the bread and butter. Dive with Widow. They're extremely strong in that. Libero, terrifying Widow. So, that's it. If there's any other questions, if not, I gotta go to bed. Someone's gotta work in the morning. You can't just play games for a living.